it in what, 10 hours?
10 hours. My last marathon was in about 4 hours and 45 seconds. So
that must have been like 30, 40 years ago, right?
That does it for us. We'll see you at 4.
Bye-bye.
Today was a big day, but it is just one step in this process, an important step. We still have a lot of work to do to get this signed into law. And I know that our friends over in the Senate are eager to get to work.
Welcome to the Journal Editorial Report. I'm Paul Gigot. A long-awaited victory for Speaker Paul Ryan and President Donald Trump Thursday as the House narrowly passed a bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. And while the plan, as it stands, faces the long odds in the Senate, President Trump says the process has served to unify the party.
This has really brought the Republican Party together. As much as we've come up with a really incredible health care plan, this has brought the Republican Party together.
Joining the panel this week, Wall Street Journal columnist and deputy editor Dan Henninger, Washington columnist Kim Strassel, and editorial board member Joe Rago. So, Joe, how did they pull this off? They were dead in the water for a while.
Yeah, I think there was a sense of political urgency. This was really a big win for the House to overcome the defeat in March of the original bill, and they made some policy compromises. If you look at the people who voted for this bill, spanning the conference, from moderates to really hardline conservatives, they came together on a great bill.
Well, it's not perfect. I mean, we've written critically of some parts of it, but you think this is a substantial down payment on the pledge to repeal and replace Obamacare?
Yeah, this is directional progress. It's moving away from the central planning and government control of Obamacare to a more free market system. Look, we've seen that getting an ideal bill would be really hard with this fractious Congress.
Well, and with the 60 vote barrier in the Senate, you couldn't do it.
Well, sure. How about a 50 vote barrier in the Senate, which is what they're working with now? But it's moving in the right direction, and that's really what matters. You got to think about this as a multi-year, maybe even multi-decade process to start to fix the healthcare market.
And they had to demonstrate, Dan, you've written about this. You wrote a column this week saying, what are Republicans for? If they couldn't do this, the voters could, I think, and even Republican voters say, what can they do?
Yeah, they handed the control of the Congress to them, plus the presidency. You're supposed to do something when you have that sort of full government control, and it looked like they were on the brink of not being able to do that. I have to kind of agree with the point that President Trump just made. It's about party, I think it's a down payment, hopefully, on party unity, as opposed to the basically fracturing and chaos that we've experienced over at least since about 2010. And you have to understand, a lot of these new members of Congress haven't been there for that long. They have spent their entire careers in opposition, fighting Obama. They have raised money. They have given hundreds of speeches all about opposition. And I think this experience finally made clear to them that if they only do that, they will fail. And you could see them coming around during this the compromise over this House bill to the point where they said, if we don't figure out a way to work together, we will be seen as failures.
Kim, what is the role here? What role did Donald Trump play in making this happen?
He played a very smart role in that what he did is, remember, go all the way back. He laid out some principles about what they wanted to see in a health care bill, and then he let the House get on with it. But stepped in whenever was necessary to host a meeting, to lobby the right people. In the last few days, he was on the phone with individual congressmen, exerting pressure and, in general, making clear that he was still open to yet more deals, final compromises. Remember, at the very end, what got these final votes was an agreement with Michigan Congressman Fred Upton for another $8 billion to help people with pre-existing conditions. And so, he was very much about making deals.
Kim, but I want to, okay, so you're talking about an inside game, right? Talking to members, working them one-on-one, getting them in for small groups. That's something that President Obama rarely did, because President Obama hated that kind of personal engagement politics. This is what Trump is really good at. On the other hand, Obama was quite good at giving speeches and selling ideas to the country, whereas President Trump not so good at that, and really hasn't done very much other than the occasional tweet to sell the details of this plan. And that's one of the reasons I think the plan right now isn't all that popular in the polls.
Especially, healthcare is not his forte. Go all the way back during the primary debates, and he was ridiculed at some times, not really seeming to have a very strong grasp of it. And so you've seen Mike Pence give some very good speeches on the policy questions and what they want to have done. Tom Price, who's running the Health and Human Services Department, knows this inside and out. But the chief spokesman, you're right, has not been much of a force for this. And that has not provided a lot of direction for the party.
All right, we move to the Senate, Joe, and the same media folks who said this could never pass the House now say can never pass the Senate. How do you're calling all the time over there? What are the prospects?
I actually think they're a lot better than the media coverage has I think led readers to believe. I think a lot of media people are invested in failure. Look, the Senate is going to adopt the basic architecture of this bill. They're going to probably increase the tax credits for less affluent people. They're maybe going to delay the transition to Medicaid block grants or make it less maybe of a harsh fiscal policy. But they're going to put a better public face on this, try to resell it to the public. But I think the votes are there.
But things like the core devolution of Medicaid to the states, that's going to happen.
That's definitely going to happen.
Tax cuts are going to be repealed. That's going to happen. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are. I think they're going to keep the same basic architecture of this bill, make enough policy compromises to get to 50.
And Dan, briefly, this is again a sort of a binary choice for Republicans in the Senate and in the whole Congress. Either stick with the status quo if you don't pass this bill, which is Obamacare, which is deteriorating, or you pass this in some form.
That's exactly right. I mean, the Obamacare status quo isn't working. I mean, everybody knows that these exchanges are falling apart in states like Iowa, Kansas, New Hampshire.
Even Virginia, Aetna pulling out of Virginia this week.
Insurers, big insurers pulling out of the exchanges. And so the goal is to take a very complicated law, a very complicated subject, and make it so that the subsidies allow it to work, and so that the policies are cheap enough that young people will join and make the premiums come down, make it affordable.
All right,
I think they'll get to that goal.
All right, Dan, thank you. Up next, both sides are claiming victory as Republicans and Democrats strike a deal to keep the government running through September. So who came out on top in the shutdown showdown?
Why do some cashback cards make earning bonus cashback so complicated? They limit where you can earn bonus cashback to a few places, and those places keep changing every few months. The Quicksilver card from Capital One doesn't do any of that. With Quicksilver, you earn unlimited 1.5% cashback on every purchase everywhere. Leave complicated behind. What's in your wallet?
Managing blood sugar is not a marathon. It's a series of smart choices. And when you replace one meal or snack a day with Glucerna, made with Carb Steady to help minimize blood sugar spikes, you can really feel it. Glucerna, everyday progress.
It brings the heat and keeps you out of the kitchen. And at $550, your budget won't go up in smoke. Cabela's Pellet Grill. Great price, lifetime guarantee. Only at Cabela's.
It is an entire transformation. It's like we have a new home.
Real customers share their stories about Empire today.
It's just that above and beyond that Empire is known for.
And during Empire's 50-50-50 sale, get 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation.
Empire's products are top-notch. The carpeting, the flooring, it's phenomenal. I'm so happy we selected Empire.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Home is where you should always fit in. So trust Angie's List to help find top-rated pros for quality work, because your home is where our heart is.
Fitting into my skinny jeans again? That's cool.
Feeling good in slim fit? That's cool.
Looking fabulous in my little black dress? That's cool.
Getting the body you want without surgery, needles, or downtime? That's Cool Sculpting. Cool Sculpting is the only FDA-cleared, non-invasive treatment that targets and freezes away stubborn fat cells. Visit CoolSculpting.com today and register for a chance to win a free treatment.
We asked people to write down the things they love to do most on these balloons.
Travel with my daughter.
Roller derby?
Now, give up half of them.
Do I have to?
This is the tough financial choice we could face when we retire. But if we start saving even just 1% more of our annual income, we could keep doing all the things we love.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
They wanted a shutdown. We know that. They were desperate to make this administration look like we couldn't function, like we couldn't govern. And we know that a large part of their base, especially their left-wing base, wanted a shutdown and certainly didn't want them to cut a deal with us. That's why I think you're seeing them crowing about their success, is in order to cover up the fact that they actually cut a deal with President Trump.
White House Budget Director Mick Mulvaney blasting Democrats and claiming victory for the administration, following a deal this week to avoid a government shutdown, at least for now. The $1.1 trillion spending bill funds the government through September, but the threat of a future standoff still very real, with President Trump tweeting Tuesday that the country needs a good shutdown to force a confrontation over the budget. We're back with Dan Henninger, Kim Strassel, and Joe Reagan. Wall Street Journal columnist Bill McGurn also joins the panel. So, Kim, is Mulvaney right that the Democrats wanted a shutdown and Republicans were smart not to give them one?
I don't know if Democrats really wanted a shutdown either. They remember what happened to Republicans when Republicans shut down the government a couple of years ago. The people that provoke it tend to get the blame for it. And so they were willing to give something in the end to keep it open. I do think it's the case, though, that Republicans got a little bit more than the press gave them credit for. These budget fights are always a mess, especially when they're done in an omnibus fashion. So it was always going to be the case that if you wanted those Democratic votes to get it through, that this was going to be messy. No one got a clear victory here.
So anybody disagree with Kim here, Bill, about who got the most out of this?
No, I think she's about right that the Republicans did get something. I mean, what worries me is I think Chuck Schumer said this is the way Washington should work, so that makes me...
One bill, $1.1 trillion.
And I think Paul Ryan called it a game changer because we got increases in defense spending without corresponding increases elsewhere. You know, it's a kick the can kind of thing. And, you know, that tweet that you mentioned by President Trump, shutdown, he was right in the first part. He said the reason we have this is the 60 votes in the Senate. Right. Either we get more Republicans in the Senate or we take another look at this.
Well, but I mean, they did get, I guess, Bill, to Bill's point, they did break, the Republicans did break the Obama pattern of saying that if you want an increase of $1 in defense, you have to have an increase of $1 in other domestic spending. Instead, you got a bigger increase in defense and a bigger increase in Homeland Security and smaller increases in domestic spending. But here's the issue. This isn't draining the swamp. This isn't big change in Washington. This is basically status quo government.
Well, it's on the defense side, it's the old guns and butter debate that you always have and currently have between Republicans and Democrats. The Democrats do not want to spend money on the military, and that one-for-one deal made it clear that they want money spent on the domestic accounts. Donald Trump has said that defense spending has been starved for years. There are national security concerns all over the world now. We need a military restored that can deal with that, and he was absolutely intent on breaking that formula, and he has done that. And I think that's a basis to build on for in the next budget.
And yet, Joe, it's not a lot of money for defense. I mean, I think it's, what, $15 billion, something like that more?
You have to remember, this is only a 5-month bill.
Right. True.
So low stakes. And I think the problem here is that Republicans cannot pass a budget in the House using only Republican votes.
Why not?
there are some Republicans who will never vote for a spending bill under
any spending bill?
Under any well, I mean, they vote for a balanced budget or whatever, but that's not particularly realistic in my view. So if they can't show the same kind of unity that they showed on health care, they have to go to Democrats for votes, and that empowers Nancy Pelosi.
Hey, that's not 60 votes, Bill. Right. That's Republican dysfunction.
No, that's a problem. Look, it also comes in the thick of a health care vote and so forth. To me, it's kick the can. I don't think it's necessarily an awful deal. If I had to trade that to get the health care vote.
There's one big $15 billion gorilla in the room, and that's Donald Trump's wall. All right? The Democrats said they pulled the wall out. He got $1.5 billion for it. But in the next budget, Trump is going to want $15 billion for that wall. And that's a lot of money. There are some Republicans who will oppose it, and there are Democrats who say that it'll never happen, and it's going to be the tail wagging the dog of the next budget.
And Trump's going to want it because it's so symbolic for him. But there are a lot of Republicans who don't like it either, and my own personal view is that it's basically a waste of resources as well. But Kim, the president said, look, I think maybe we need a shutdown. As to your earlier point in this segment, is it a good idea to advertise that you want to shut down, or you may want to shut down?
Not necessarily, and if Republicans are smart, what they do here is try to get back to regular budget order. You pass 12 different spending bills, and then the stakes are simply not that high. If you can't get one through, maybe a portion of the government shuts down instead of the whole entire thing.
All right, thank you, Kim. When we come back, President Trump signs an executive order on religious freedom. But did it fall short of what some Christian conservatives had hoped for? We'll ask Ralph Reed next.
This program is brought to you by NewTek, your business solutions company. Visit newtek.com today.
Hi, I'm Barry Sloan with NewTek, your business solutions company. Does your business need money? Whether you need $10,000 or $10 million, you can count on NewTek, the nation's largest non-bank government-guaranteed lender. NewTek can help your business expand and grow. With a simple phone interview, we can pre-qualify you in just 48 hours. And with rates as low as 6%, you can see why so many businesses turn to NewTek. To see how easy getting a loan can be, contact NewTek, your business solutions company, today.
More coffee?
Yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah.
I can just quit school and get a job.
It's okay. Daddy's here. Daddy!
Hey! Hey, buddy.
I think we can do this.
Really? Annan Bailey. Annan Bailey.
Principal, we can help you plan for that.
Every successful business needs capital to grow. I know. I turned $1,000 into one of New York's largest real estate companies. When it comes to capital, On Deck is the small business loan expert. To find out how much you qualify for, go to OnDeckTV.com.
New bike? Yeah, because I got...
Allstate. If you total your new bike, they replace it with a brand new one.
So, kind of like your second husband.
Kinda. It's good to be in good hands.
When you're busy building the future, it's not often you have your eyes on the ground. But there it is, right below our feet. An ever-expanding state-of-the-art fiber-rich network designed to connect you to what matters most today and tomorrow. Which is why we're never done building for the future. That's who we are. Spectrum.
Let's go to Daddy. Come on, let's go. Go. Let's go. Bona makes it easy to care for your hardwood floors, so you can take care of more important things. Get the tough clean with a delicate touch. Certified asthma and allergy friendly, Bona-free and simple hardwood floor cleaners are water-based and free of dyes and scents, yet still deliver an effective clean that lets you breathe easy. Bona for Simply Beautiful Floors.
Under my administration, free speech does not end at the steps of a cathedral or a synagogue or any other house of worship. We are giving our churches their voices back. We are giving them back in the highest form. With this executive order, we also make clear that the federal government will never, ever penalize any person for their protected religious beliefs.
That was President Trump Thursday signing an executive order on religious liberty that directs the IRS to relax a provision in the tax code known as the Johnson Amendment that bans churches and other tax-exempt organizations from engaging in political speech and campaign activities. The order also provides regulatory relief for organizations that object on religious grounds to an Obamacare provision requiring employers to provide certain health services, including coverage for contraception. Ralph Reed is the founder and chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition. He joins me now from Atlanta. Good to see you, Ralph. Thanks for coming in.
You bet, Paul. Good to be with you.
So you said this order is a good first step. How so?
Well, it's a very important first step because there are thousands of ministries and churches, Paul, over decades that have been subjected to harassment, audits that have gone on for years and remained open-ended, administrative persecution, such that they've had to spend tens of millions of dollars to try to keep from losing their tax-exempt status simply because the head of that church or ministry made one statement in their capacity as a private citizen in support of a candidate of their choice. That's wrong. It violates the First Amendment. This is something that has had a chilling effect on the political speech, First Amendment rights of people of faith, and Donald Trump put an end to that, and we're thrilled. It's just a first step. I want to be clear. We still support full statutory repeal of the Johnson Amendment, and that has to be done legislatively.
I want to talk about the Johnson Amendment enforcement, because the argument you hear from a lot of folks is, you know what, the IRS doesn't really enforce this very much at all right now. So this amendment doesn't do very much more than just say to the IRS, enforce it even less. I mean, what's your response to that?
My response to that is the so-called experts that are pointing out that there's only been one case where a church lost their tax-exempt status under this provision, and that is correct. Obviously haven't been running a major church, ministry, or Christian or other faith-based college or university in the last 30 years.
So they have to pay a lot of money to defend themselves against investigations. Is that the problem?
Paul, millions. I mean, this has been a full employment act for tax attorneys to fight the IRS at the cost of tens of millions of dollars that could have been used to feed the poor, to spread the gospel, to heal families and marriages, to get people off drugs and alcohol, and that money's gone to keep the right of people of faith to defend their First Amendment rights. And there's no reason for that kind of harassment. Look, if there's a problem in American politics today, if there's a problem with our civic discourse, it's not being caused because people of faith are raising their voices, whether it was the civil rights movement in the 60s or the pro-life and pro-family movement in more recent times. This is a bright thread in the fabric of our political discourse that we should be encouraging, not discouraging.
All right, let me ask you another objection that some folks on the right have raised about this executive order is it doesn't go far enough to protect people of conscience, religious conscience, say the photographer or the cake maker, who says, you know what, my religion says I can't serve at a gay wedding, for example, that there's no protections in this order for them. And there was, at least some people thought, in the earlier draft that was leaked. Now it's out. What's your response to that?
Well, my response to that is if you actually read the text of the executive order, and I've read it, what it does is it directs the Secretary of Health and Human Services to write new regulations that protect religious liberty with respect to what remains of Obamacare as we dismantle it. That's the Little Sisters of the Poor case. The other thing it does is it directs the Attorney General to provide similar guidance to protect First Amendment rights, free speech rights, and religious liberty across all departments of government. So this is going to be an incremental process. But Paul, I do want to be clear about something. I helped pass the Federal Religious Freedom Act in the early 90s, and there are now state religious freedom statutes on the books at over 30 states. Paul, there has never been a case in 25 years of litigation under any state religious freedom statute or under the federal statute that gives the right of a business run by a person of faith to deny services to someone because they are a gay or lesbian. That has been litigated. It has never won, and I don't think you can solve that by an executive order. So I think the critics are asking for something that can't be accomplished under an executive order.
All right. Would you agree with me that the most significant act that this president's made so far on religious liberty was putting Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court?
No question about it. I mean, if you look, one of the things that I was a little concerned about, and I'm not an attorney, I'm hoping the case can proceed, but the Little Sisters of the Poor case is still technically pending before the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
They were deadlocked 4-4 before Gorsuch was confirmed. I believe we now have a 5-4 pro-religious freedom majority back on the court. That case was remanded back to the appellate court. I hope it can still proceed, because even though President Trump solved a good chunk of the problem with his executive order, a future president could recreate the problem. So I hope the Supreme Court will still take the case and dispense with this mistreatment of faith-based ministries and their right to express their religious freedom.
All right, Ralph Reed, thanks for coming in. Still ahead, as Hillary Clinton points a finger at the FBI for her election loss, Director James Comey says he'd do it all over again.
It was May when Dad forgot how to brush his teeth.
In March, my husband didn't recognize our grandson.
That's when moderate Alzheimer's made me a caregiver.
If their Alzheimer's is getting worse, ask about once-a-day Nemzeric. Nemzeric is approved for moderate to severe Alzheimer's disease in patients who are taking donepezil. It may improve cognition and overall function and may slow the worsening of symptoms for a while. Nemzeric does not change the underlying disease progression. Don't take if allergic to memantine, donepezil, piperidine, or any of the ingredients in Nemzeric. Tell the doctor about any conditions including heart, lung, bladder, kidney or liver problems, seizures, stomach ulcers, or procedures with anesthesia. Serious side effects may occur, including muscle problems if given anesthesia, slow heartbeat, fainting, more stomach acid, which may lead to ulcers and bleeding, nausea, vomiting, difficulty urinating, seizures, and worsening of lung problems. Most common side effects are headache, diarrhea, dizziness, loss of appetite, and bruising.
I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I'm doing what I can.
Ask about Nemzeric today.
Have you ever looked for a hotel online? Well, Trivago does the work for you and instantly compares the prices of over 600,000 hotels from over 200 different websites. That's how you can be sure that you find the ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
I found the perfect stone for your ring. Coming this afternoon.
No. When the unexpected strikes,
Don't worry, we've got you covered.
the Hartford strikes back.
Every home is unique. That's why I rely on science. So I heard you have a mosquito problem.
Yeah, kids can't play outside anymore.
Well, using the research from our entomologists, I'll customize a mosquito treatment plan that's guaranteed to help you get the outdoors back outdoors.
That would be fantastic!
Really fantastic!
Having my mom around to help with my daughter means the world to me, so I got her a smartphone.
Amanda, I'm out front, honey.
It's the all-new Jitterbug Smart from Great Call. It's got one of the biggest, brightest screens, and with the built-in 5-star app, I know she can always get help.
One touch and you'll be immediately connected to a highly trained agent who can confirm your location, assess the situation, and get you the help you need.
And right now, get 25% off at Best Buy, Rite Aid, or Sears.
Dinner time is definitely
the most stressful time of my life.
Simplify your life with Crock-Pot meals exclusively from Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks has created all new gourmet meal kits, straight from your freezer to your slow cooker.
All you have to do is put it in the slow cooker, turn it on low, and come home to a house that actually smells like you were seriously cooking.
All of these meats are so tender, if it was on a bone, it would be falling off the bone.
Order the Omaha Steaks Crock-Pot dinner deal for only $69.95. This special price includes 3 complete slow cooker meals. That's $5.83 per serving. Plus, order now and we'll include 4 beefy 5-ounce top sirloin steaks and 4 premium Omaha Steaks burgers free, an $83 value. Choose from chicken and dumplings, rustic French stew, beef bourguignon, rustic Italian beef stew, Cuban mojo pork, and white chicken chili.
I knew this was going to simplify my life.
Simplify dinner and make your life easier with the Omaha Steaks Crock-Pot dinner deal, plus 4 free steaks and 4 free burgers. It's dinner solved. Order now.
It wasn't a perfect campaign. There is no such thing. But I was on the way to winning until the combination of Jim Comey's letter on October 28th and Russian WikiLeaks raised doubts in the minds of people who were inclined to vote for me but got scared off.
That was 2016 Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton this week in a rare public appearance, acknowledging problems with her presidential campaign, but telling a New York audience that she was on her way to victory before WikiLeaks and FBI Director James Comey got in the way. Comey, though, is defending his decision to inform Congress in late October that he had reopened an FBI investigation into Clinton's use of a private email server, telling the Senate Judiciary Committee Wednesday that going public 11 days before the election was one of the world's most painful experiences, but that he'd do it again.
This was terrible. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election, but honestly, it wouldn't change the decision. Everybody who disagrees with me has to come back to October 28th with me and stare at this and tell me what you would do. Would you speak or would you conceal?
We're back with Dan Henninger, Kim Strassel, William McGurn, and Mary Anastasia O'Grady. So, Kim, Jim Comey, nauseous about all this. He didn't mention that he intervened in July, first to exonerate Hillary Clinton from a crime for passing along confidential, classified information. But what else did we learn from Comey this week that we didn't know?
Well, he's handled this so badly all along, and you saw him in that hearing again. He actually tried to throw Bill Clinton under the bus and his former boss, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, saying that it was because of their meeting on the tarmac that he was forced to act. But we did hear a couple of other interesting things come out of this hearing. The top one being the information that Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's aide, had routinely, according to him, sent classified emails to a laptop for her husband, Anthony Weiner, to print out, and he didn't have any classified access to any of these. And so there was a lot of questions for Republicans about whether or not Mrs. Abedin ought to be held to some sort of account for mishandling classified information.
And Comey used the same explanation that he'd given for Hillary Clinton, as we couldn't prove intent, which is in sending it along.
Yeah, it's an entirely new standard. That is not what the statute said. That's also how he got Hillary Clinton intended to mishandle classified information. There are people sitting in jails, Paul, who never had an intent to mishandle information, but that was not what was applied to them.
Bill, here's the other issue with Loretta Lynch. I mean, she never formally recused herself. Yes, right. She met on the tarmac, but she never, as Attorney General, formally recused herself. Comey took it upon himself to say, I am the authority who is supposed to intervene here. There's no authority for him under Justice Department process.
And it goes with what you said earlier. Look, yes, what we had in this hearing is the All About Jim show. What Jim feels about the election, mildly. What Jim feels Vladimir Putin feels about this, with no real information. He said there was no evidence on the Trump charges. But your main point at the beginning is the most important one. It didn't start on October 28th. That's the Hillary Clinton narrative. It started in July when he made this foray into the public realm, and now we see that he thinks, part of the reason was he didn't trust DOJ. I think he asked what you would do. I think a principled man if the Department of Justice is compromising an investigation, is to resign and say why, rather than usurp powers that you do. He created this entire mess for himself back in July, commenting on an investigation that wasn't resulting in charges, which almost never happens.
All right, Mary, let's turn to the First Lady, Hillary Clinton, and her explanation. It was Comey and WikiLeaks.
Yeah, keep telling yourself that, Hillary. You know, if you, Paul, presided over the debacle that she did in November, you would be looking for scapegoats also. And it's interesting how she always starts out saying, I take full responsibility, and then she goes on to blame everyone else. I thought one of the most interesting comments came from David Axelrod, who was an advisor to President Obama, and he said that it takes a lot of work to lose to Donald Trump. And you know, if you look at the campaign, not going to Wisconsin, not going to Michigan, not reaching out to those voters, that's why she lost. It had nothing to do with Jim Comey.
She did go to Michigan at the end, though she never made it to Milwaukee, where she might have drummed up some turnout, and she lost so narrowly in Wisconsin. But Dan, yeah, I mean, the WikiLeaks, the Russian hacking stuff really didn't add that much to the campaign. Basically, all we found out is that some Democratic operatives didn't like Bernie Sanders. We knew that. Yeah. And that some of the Clinton operatives didn't like traditional Catholics. There wasn't much else that they really, influenced the campaign.
Yeah, once again, one may dispute her assertion that her problems began on October 28th. I think it's generally seen, and this is across the political spectrum, her problems began with the revelation of that private email server. And the second problem was she then held a press conference and gave no adequate answer or defense for why she had that server. Kept the story alive throughout the entire campaign. That was when Hillary Clinton's credibility was significantly damaged. She never recovered from that.
And Mary, that was in 2015, the spring of 2015, when that first story came out.
I think there's something much broader here that the Democratic wing, the wing that Hillary represents, is not recognizing, this was a rejection of 8 years of Barack Obama. It was a vote for the Supreme Court, and it was a cry for help from people who felt like they've been ignored by the Democratic Party.
All right, still ahead, Trump and the despots, from Vladimir Putin to Kim Jong-un. Is there a strategy behind the president's praise of the world's strongmen?
I look back with great satisfaction on my 32 years on active duty. I understand the veteran mentality. These are people who have served, they've been in leadership positions, they're willing to put their life on the line if necessary, and they come to us and they say, I need some financial help at this point in time. They're not looking for a handout, they're looking for a little handout. My team at New Day USA is going to do everything we possibly can to make sure that veteran gets that loan.
Call 1-855-707-5772. It's a new day for veterans who want to lower their monthly payment.
That's me.
The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consolidate your credit card debt, get cash, and lower your payments an average of $640 a month. New Day will even pay for your appraisal.
That's me.
As a vet, you've earned the right to apply for a home loan that's VA guaranteed. For veterans who want to refinance, that can mean a lot.
That's me.
Call New Day USA now, 1-855-707-5772.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com.
I had so many reasons for not losing weight, for putting it off. Sound familiar? It's time to take control with Nutrisystem.
Introducing new Lean 13 from Nutrisystem. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guaranteed.
You gain energy, you improve your health, and you lose weight. I'm Marie, and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day plan right now. With Lean 13, you'll get specially designed meals, plus 1 week of new NutriCrush bars to crush cravings free. And 1 week of Turbo Shakes to bust belly bloat free.
Belly fat? got that under control, too.
Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping free. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall your first month. Millions of people have lost weight on Nutrisystem.
It's time to take control.
Go online or call 888-526-THIN right now and get new Lean 13 with bars and shakes free.
I'm really into this car, but how do I know if I'm getting a good deal? I tell TrueCar my zip and which car I want, and TrueCar shows the range of prices people in my area actually paid for the same car, so I know if I'm getting a great price. This is how car buying was always meant to be. This is TrueCar.
Stressful days can lead to sleepless nights, making you feel helpless. Take control of your sleep with Unisom Sleep Tabs. You fall asleep 33% faster and wake up recharged. With all the benefits of a good night's rest, take control of your sleep with Unisom.
President Donald Trump raising some eyebrows recently with his seeming embrace of the world's strongmen. Last weekend's invitation to Philippine leader Rodrigo Duterte alarmed human rights advocates and took even his own advisors by surprise. And on Monday, he told Bloomberg News he'd be honored to meet North Korea's Kim Jong-un under the right circumstances. A day later, President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin had their third phone call discussing the civil war in Syria and the possibility of a meeting this summer. We're back with Dan Henninger, Mary Anastasia O'Grady, and Bill McGurn. So, Dan, is there any seeming strategy here, foreign policy strategy behind this praise for strongmen?
Well, I believe there is. Rex Tillerson articulated it at the State Department this past week. He said that human rights are important, but we are not going to let them stand in front of the U.S. national interest and achieving our national interest in places like Asia and with things like North Korea. In principle, Paul, it doesn't bother me so much that the president says he wants to meet with President Duterte of Philippines or even Kim Jong-un. The problem is his modus operandi is to put the cart before the horse. He makes these game-changing statements before his foreign policy team has had a place to put a strategy in place to support it. And that makes it very difficult for them because when you're dealing with sovereign powers like this, it's very complicated, and Trump could be setting himself up in this way for an abject failure unless he has a plan going in.
Yeah, an honor to meet Mary. I mean, Kim Jong-un, an honor. The guy is one of the world's great murderers. He just had his brother assassinated with a poison in a Malaysian airport. I mean, don't you have to have, I mean, maybe at the end of the process you could do this, but if Bill Clinton or Barack Obama had said this, a lot of conservatives would be pillaring him.
Well, I think people are unhappy with that, but as we know, Donald Trump is not good speaking off the cuff or tweeting off the cuff, and he often says things I think that he would end up regretting. What's important here is that I think Dan's right, he's putting national security ahead of human rights. But for the Democrats to be wringing their hands and crying about how, you know, our president now doesn't care about human rights. Barack Obama called the dictator of Ethiopia the winner of a democratic election. He was friends with Hugo Chavez, I mean, until the end, but in the beginning he reached out to him. On Cuba, he made a great concession to the Cuban dictatorship. You know, so it went on and on. Iran, when Iran had their stolen election in 2009, he praised it. You know, he did nothing to defend human rights over the course of 8 years.
So Reagan engaged with dictators ultimately. He had to. But one thing I never heard him say was praise for those dictators before they actually made concessions or released political prisoners or did something significant.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of nice words for Gorbachev.
At the end.
Yeah, but I mean, he was still presiding over a Soviet Union and so forth. Look, I think as Dan said in yours, it's not as simple as meet or don't meet with dictators. All presidents have to be involved with them. But a president of the United States should realize a democratically elected president, he has a lot of prestige. And these meetings, these foreigners crave that. They crave the respectability of being in the Rose Garden or the Oval Office. That's a big thing for them because they know they don't have that credibility. So it's leverage for a president to use rather than just give away. As to the point about human rights and American policy, sometimes you have to be silent for a greater a greater cause. But the general principle is that a strong America acting decisively is good for human rights. And when people think America's weak, it's bad for human rights.
I think the difference, though, is that when Barack Obama did nothing about human rights, it was because he thought, well, the United States really doesn't have any moral authority. We're not such a good country. He was sort of apologizing all the time. And I think what Trump is doing is putting national security ahead of human rights only because, as Bill says, he has to engage with these dictators on some level if he's going to make any progress.
The potential meeting, Dan, with Putin. A lot of, 6 months ago you'd have said, okay, that Trump really wants this. But there's been a lot of problems here in the interim, namely the accusations about collusion between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin, and some real problems in Syria. What do you make of holding out this idea of a meeting?
Well, this is a perfect example of what I mean by putting the cart before the horse. Look, Secretary Mattis and Rex Tillerson both understand that Putin, post-Crimea, post-Ukraine, is not a friend of the West at this point. The idea is that we perhaps need Putin to resolve the mess in Syria and the refugees. So you're going to need a strategy going in, just as Ronald Reagan had one going into talk to Gorbachev over ballistic missiles. That is what they're going to have to do before you sit down for a meeting with some
All right, thank you all. When we come back, President Trump says he is looking at breaking up the big banks, but is it a plan Republicans in Congress could get behind? We'll ask House Financial Services Committee Chair Jeb Hensarling next.
New bike?
Yeah, because I got
Allstate. If you total your new bike, they replace it with a brand new one.
That's cool. I got a new helmet.
We know, Steve. It's good to be in good hands.
My name is Pam. I'm 51 years old. When I was diagnosed with pneumococcal pneumonia, it was huge for everybody. She just started to decline rapidly. I was rushed to the hospital. My symptoms were devastating. The doctor said, Pam, if you'd have waited 2 more days, you would have died. If I'd have known that a vaccine could have helped prevent this, I would have asked my doctor or pharmacist about it.
Janice is learning French with Babbel.
Deux croissants, s'il vous plaît.
D'accord. With 14 languages, Babbel gets you conversational fast for real-life situations. Try Babbel.com for free today.
The free speech double standard. Liberals resorting to riots to silence the right. Now, Jesse exposes the left's hypocrisy on a must-see Watters World tonight.
We understand the value of hard work. We know great things don't happen overnight. We get up earlier. We work harder. Because connecting you to what matters to us. That's who we are. Spectrum, redefining what a cable company can be.
Baird Funeral Home, serving the veterans of Troy and the surrounding area since 1923.
Let Baird Funeral Home help you plan the celebration of your life and honor your commitment to our country.
Baird Funeral Home, personalized reflections.
Let's go.
We're not coming out.
I got this. Guys, I know being a first-time homeowner is scary, but you don't have to do this.
What if a tree falls on our garage? What if a tornado rips off our roof?
You're covered, and you bundled your home and auto insurance, so you're saving a ton. Come on, you don't want to start your new life in a dirty old truck. Sorry. You're safe. You're safe now. Can you stop using the bullhorn? I don't make the rules.
It's Health Foods Unlimited's 40th anniversary sale. Save 50% on all home health body care products, including pure cold-pressed castor oil, almond globe massage oil, and aromatherapeutic waters. Natural health begins at home. And save 40% on Flora, including 100% pure unrefined flax oils, Udo's Choice oils, and digestive care in Salus. Featuring Floridix iron and organic red beet crystals. A holistic approach to health.
Health Foods Unlimited, the natural way of caring for you.
A big step forward this week in the Republican effort to roll back Obama-era Wall Street regulations, with the House Financial Services Committee voting Thursday to send the Financial Choice Act to the House floor. Democrats are promising a bitter fight against the bill, which would repeal major portions of the 2010 legislation known as Dodd-Frank. Texas Congressman Jeb Hensarling is the chair of the House Financial Services Committee and author of the new bill. Mr. Chairman, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
So the president and Gary Cohn, one of his chief economic advisors, have floated the idea of breaking up the big banks by reinstating the separation between investment and commercial banking that existed under Glass-Steagall. What do you think of that?
Well, number one, as you probably know, many provisions of Glass-Steagall still survive. Number two, I'm not exactly certain what the president has in mind here, but I think the goal is to make sure that we have robust economic growth and we minimize the ability to have the kind of financial panic we had in 2008. What I would argue to our president and Mr. Cohn is in the Financial Choice Act, which both of them have at least given some laudatory comments to, we help achieve that goal. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is about downsizing banks or supersizing banks. It's about right-sizing them with market discipline as opposed to regulatory fiat, which has hurt us so badly leading into the 2008 panic when we had federal policy that essentially incented financial institutions to put people into homes they couldn't ultimately afford to keep.
But you would not, so you would not agree with the idea that some have offered, including a lot of Democrats, the repeal of Glass-Steagall, or much of it, played a role in the financial crisis of 2008.
Oh, not in the least. I don't see any intellectual case that can be made for the fact that those provisions of Gramm-Leach-Bliley that impacted Glass-Steagall played any role whatsoever. Okay. I mean, this was a total meltdown of our real estate lending market, basically brought upon by the affordable housing goals of Fannie and Freddie, which frankly is the next big project we have to take on, Paul, in the House Financial Services Committee.
Okay, now you say with your Financial Choice Act, you're going to eliminate too big to fail banks, that policy. I thought Dodd-Frank took care of that in 2010. You're saying it didn't, and how would your bill do it differently?
Well, I think what's kind of interesting, Paul, is since Dodd-Frank was enacted, the big banks are bigger and the small banks are fewer, and economic growth still lags. So no, it didn't take care of too big to fail. Instead, this is the huge difference between the two parties and the two pieces of legislation. Under Dodd-Frank, they actually codified too big to fail into law. The federal government, as you well know, has the ability to designate too big to fail firms, known as SIFIs, systemically important financial institutions, and then back that up with a taxpayer bailout system. Under the Financial Choice Act, we replaced taxpayer bailout with a new subchapter of the Bankruptcy Code for large, complex financial institutions, and we prohibit any ability for the taxpayer to bail out these funds. And so we're counting upon market discipline and, frankly, high levels of private capital to replace involuntary high levels of taxpayer capital. The amount of capital that's required under the Financial Choice Act, loss-absorbing private capital, far greater than Dodd-Frank, far greater than the Basel Accords.
All right, and that capital, I think, is something that a lot of people across the spectrum could agree with. But here's something, you know, there's something called the Orderly Liquidation Authority under Dodd-Frank, and you would eliminate that and replace it with that bankruptcy provision. Ben Bernanke, as you know, the former chair of the Federal Reserve, said this would be an irresponsible provision because it wouldn't, the bankruptcy point would not allow the federal government to act with enough rapidity to be able to stop a real meltdown if you had a big bank fail and threaten the whole financial system. What's your response to Bernanke?
Well, number one, he ought to listen to his predecessor, Alan Greenspan, who I think has the complete opposite opinion. Chairman Greenspan, as does former Federal Reserve Governor Robert Heller, believe that what we need to do is, again, replace private capital with these bailout mechanisms. The second point I'd make, Paul, is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we use market discipline, which I would define as having both the appearance and reality of having your own money economy at risk will ensure that we right-size our financial institutions, that we right-size the amount of risk, and that also, Paul, that we don't impose one global view of risk on the economy, which is what happened in 2008 when our regulators said that for all intents and purposes, you don't have to reserve capital against mortgage-backed securities and sovereign debt, think Greek bonds, Fannie and Freddie, and the rest is history. So we want to try to prevent these meltdowns in the first place. You do that through market discipline.
All right, very quickly, Mr. Chairman, should the President fire Richard Cordray, head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau?
The short answer is yes. I wish he would have done it yesterday, but I'll settle for today or tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
We have to take one more break. When we come back, hits and misses of the week.
I just want to find a used car without getting ripped off.
Start at thenewcarfax.com.
Show me used trucks with one owner.
Pretty cool.
Show me the Carfax.
Start your used car search at theallnewcarfax.com.
Got gas? Acid? Try Phazon Gas and Acid. The strongest gas-fighting medicine with fast-acting heartburn relief you can get. All in one great-tasting chew. Maximum strength Phazon Gas and Acid.
Do you have trouble falling asleep? Do you toss and turn all night or wake up with a sore neck or headache? Then it's time you discovered MyPillow.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 10 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota. Take advantage of my famous offer and get 2 MyPillow premiums for one low price. Call or go to MyPillow.com. Be sure to use the promo code and I'll give you free shipping.
Other pillows go flat, causing you to fold them over or use your arm for support, which can cause pain. Hard foam pillows can raise your head too high, making you very uncomfortable. But the revolutionary MyPillow has patented fill that won't go flat and keeps your neck supported and aligned to your exact individual need. MyPillow helps you get and stay in deep sleep all night long.
Before MyPillow, sleeping was a nightmare. First night I got it, slept like a baby. Just was out, completely out.
I sleep better. I wake up, I feel refreshed, I feel healthy.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your support.
Call or go to MyPillow.com now and Mike will send you 2 of his premium MyPillows for one low price. Use the promo code on your screen for this exclusive TV offer and Mike will include free shipping. Don't delay. Get 2 MyPillow premiums for one low price plus free shipping. Order now.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
ProPlan BrightMind Adult 7 Plus promotes alertness and mental sharpness in dogs 7 and older.
The difference has been incredible. She's much more aware. She wants to learn things.
Purina ProPlan BrightMind, nutrition that performs.
Finally, partner, our own office. Selfie?
Yeah.
Okay, desk in the background.
Okay.
Best day ever.
When the unexpected strikes,
Don't worry, we've got you covered.
the Hartford strikes back.
Time now for our hits and misses of the week. Kim, start us off.
So, Paul, this is a hit for the board of the Heritage Foundation, which recognized a mistake and took action. That mistake was Senator Jim DeMint, who was brought in 2013 to be president and CEO of the group, and managed in a few short years to throw over decades of good reputation Heritage had as a policy shop in favor of turning the outfit into a political enforcer, pressuring Republicans to get on board with his own agenda. The board this week asked for his resignation. Let's hope it gets back to doing what it does best, which is churning out really great, innovative ideas for the conservative side.
All right, thanks, Kim. Joe.
Paul, you remember the epic Delta meltdown from a couple weeks ago with 4,000 canceled flights and tens of thousands of stranded passengers? It turns out it was caused by busy signals on landline phones as pilots and crew tried to call into HQ to get a reassignment.
It's really hard to believe.
Look, travelers don't expect miracles from the airlines, and they're idiots if they do.
That's for sure.
But this is a miss to Delta for not using the most advanced technology the 1990s had to offer, like emails and text messages.
All right, thanks, Joe. Mary.
Paul, a miss this week goes to the rock band formerly known as the Eagles. It has sued the Hotel California in Baja, Mexico, because it believes that the 11-room inn is leading people to think that it has something to do with the song Hotel California. It even plays the song through its sound system. Now, full disclosure, I've stayed at the Hotel California, and I can attest it's not the same one because I did check out. Besides that, artists usually have to pay for this kind of promotion. I don't want to sound like a witchy woman, but they should take it easy and understand that this is life in the fast lane.
All right, Mary. Bill.
Paul, hit to an unnamed customer at Zona Caliente restaurant in Arlington, Texas on Wednesday night. While he was there, a gunman entered the restaurant and shot a bar manager. The man, who had a concealed carry permit, told his wife, "Honey, get down," and he fatally shot the killer. They discovered another loaded gun on the killer. It's a reminder that when you have places where people can legally carry guns, someone might shoot back.
All right, Bill, thank you. That's it for this week's show. Thanks to my panel. Thanks to you for watching. I'm Paul Gigot. Hope to see you right here next week.
Well, the dust is still settling on round one of the battle over health care as Republicans score a major victory in the House with the passage of their bill. But even as President Trump savors his big accomplishment, there might be little time for celebration because now that very bill shifts to the U.S. Senate, where the legislative fate is far from certain. Hello and welcome to a brand new hour of Inside America's News Headquarters. I'm Greg Jarrett.
And I'm Julie Banderas. You know, after years of symbolic votes, House Republicans finally getting a win on the board with their repeal and replacement of Obamacare. But Senate Republicans are much less united, with several now raising serious questions about the way forward. And Brian Yennis is live in Bedminster, New Jersey, where the president is spending the weekend. Hey, Brian.
Hi, Julie. Well, the president and the White House continue to tout this health care bill as a victory for them. As far as the president sees it, it doesn't get much worse than Obamacare, and they've done, at least now, repealed and replaced Obamacare and lived up to the promise, which they did not live up to a month ago. But again, like you said, this bill is far from becoming law. But still, on Thursday, they definitely did do their victory lap in the Rose Garden of the White House. And this week, they continued the victory lap. The president speaking in his weekly address this week, just yesterday actually, touting the American Health Care Act. Also, even boldly moving on to talking about his next big legislative hurdle, tax reform.
On Thursday, the House voted to repeal one of the worst job-killing laws of all. The House bill is a plan that will save Americans from this disaster and replace it with more choices and more freedom for American families. And now, I'm calling on the Senate to take action.
And getting the Senate to take action is what's really going to be the big hurdle and the big problem here. Democrats are already saying this bill will literally kill people, and Senate Republicans are saying we're going to come up with a bill all by ourselves, completely different from the House bill. The big two sticking issues are pre-existing conditions and Medicaid cuts. When it comes to pre-existing conditions, this new bill states that the states have an individual, they can make the individual decision to decide whether or not insurers could charge more for pre-existing conditions. And on the Medicaid cut front, you have senators like Rob Portman who are saying, look, you have lower income Americans, millions of lower income Americans who will now have their insurance stripped away from them because their cuts to Medicaid expansion that were put in place from Obamacare will disappear. And there's concern there, as well as whether there's enough money there to help seniors and lower income folks with this new plan. So still a long ways away, but nonetheless, Corey Lewandowski, the Trump advisor, spoke, the former Trump advisor spoke earlier today. Take a listen.
I think it's all in Mitch McConnell's court right now, and he's going to understand what his members are going to do, and we'll leave it to those guys to get it done. But I can tell you this, the president's going to push hard to make sure this gets done quickly.
The president is expected to continue to make phone calls and to push to have a hands-on approach on getting this through the Senate. As for a timetable, there is no deadline given by the White House. They say they expect changes, but they expect the main pillars of this health care bill to remain intact through all this negotiations and compromise over the coming months. Julie?
All right, Brian Yennis, thank you very much.
The insurance companies are fleeing. It's been a catastrophe, and this is a great plan. I actually think it will get even better, and this is, make no mistake, this is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare.
President Trump sounding the alarm on the Affordable Care Act and promoting the new GOP version. But as House Republicans celebrate their big win, will they now have to answer for any of the ongoing problems with Obamacare or their plan coming up instead of Democrats? Let's bring in Minnesota Congressman Jason Lewis, who's a member of both the House Budget and Transportation Committees. Congressman, great to see you. If your party is able to get both houses to approve one bill and it's signed by the president, I mean, clearly Republicans will then own health care warts and all, and that means, blame for each and every problem, real or perceived. Are you prepared for the potential damage it might do, if things don't turn out as rosy as promised?
Well, Greg, I'll tell you, on November 8th, the Republicans owned Obamacare for all practical means and purposes. Doing nothing was never an option. We would have been blamed had we let the Obamacare markets collapse, and they are collapsing in Tennessee, Kentucky, right here in Minnesota. We've got 11 states with 40% premium hikes. The state of Minnesota had to bail out the failed exchange here to the tune of $310 million based on back-to-back premium increases of 55 and 67% in Minnesota. So we would have owned the status quo. It was incumbent upon us to act and move towards a more market-oriented system.
What happens if the bill dies in the Senate? I mean, they're going to write their own version, then it's got to go through a conference committee to reconcile the differences. I mean, this thing could die in early summer, and if you don't fix Obamacare, I mean, what kind of blame do you genuinely deserve?
Well, quite frankly, that's the greater danger. Let me be the first to say the Senate now needs to step up and do the job. There's no excuse for non-action over in the other chamber as well. So I agree with you on that. That's the greater danger right now. We need to make certain the other chamber passes a bill that it is basically the same bill. There'll be some changes, but we have to move towards lowering premiums and expanding enrollment to get out from under this death spiral that's in the insurance market.
Well, look, the current bill actually does protect people with pre-existing conditions. Yeah, they might have to pay a higher premium for a year, but that'll be subsidized. But, look, as you likely know, that is not how it's being perceived by many Americans. The false meme on the internet, and it was running wild yesterday. I saw it unfold. The meme is that the pre-existing conditions will not be covered, period. In fact, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is running an ad right now that says the legislation would leave no more protections for people with a history of illness or injury, which, as you know, is patently false. Do Republicans need to do a better job of countering that in their messaging?
Look, not only does this bill have guaranteed issue, it's got guaranteed renewability. And no one can be charged more unless they have a stop in their coverage, unless they don't pay their insurance premiums, which I would remind everybody watching that is the same status as the 1996 HIPAA law, which Ted Kennedy backed. So the amount of misinformation, the idea that we don't cover pre-existing conditions, is astounding.
I know, but I got to tell you, it's out there. Go check Facebook. It ran crazy yesterday on this canard. But look, let me ask you about the polling.
Look, we have some power in Congress, but we can't prevent people from lying.
Well, but you can do a better job of messaging. I mean, I'm not seeing you guys out there really beating the drum that you are protecting people with conditions previous to their coverage. Look, let me move on. The last bill, which of course died in the House, had a scant 17% support. A majority of Americans vigorously opposed it. And, who knows, Congressman, that may be true of this one once the polling is done. Americans grew accustomed to Obamacare over its 7 years. Opposition to it abated over time. If your party gets rid of it, I mean, might you pay a steep price in the midterm elections?
I don't think so, because when you combine the premium reductions with more enrollment, which will allow us to cover those who are sick and with pre-existing conditions, people are going to have more access to health care at lower premium rates. That's the whole purpose behind the guaranteed issue and the guaranteed renewability and the idea you can't charge anybody unless they drop their own coverage. So you're going to have a better product when all is said and done, and I think the polls will catch up to that.
All right. Representative Jason Lewis coming to us from Minnesota today. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Have a good recess.
Well, new details on the resignation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. According to the Washington Post, senior members of President Trump's transition team warned Flynn about his contacts with the Russian ambassador, telling him the diplomat was most likely under U.S. surveillance. Garrett Tenney has the story from Washington. Hey, Garrett.
And Julie, several senior officials on the transition team were also concerned that General Flynn wasn't taking those warnings seriously. According to the Associated Press, one of those officials, Marshall Billingsley, who was heading the transition's National Security Council efforts, was so concerned that he asked the Obama White House for a copy of the CIA's classified profile on Russia's ambassador for Flynn to look at before going through with their meeting. Flynn was also repeatedly warned that the ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, was almost certainly under surveillance by the FBI and the CIA because of his ties to Russia's intelligence agencies. Current and former officials told the AP that it's not clear if Flynn ever looked through those documents, but he did ultimately meet with the Russian ambassador a month later and then had a series of other communications as well. Those conversations and Flynn misleading the vice president and White House officials about them is what eventually led to his dismissal. But we know there were other warnings as well, including from former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, who later told the White House she was concerned that Flynn's lying could make him vulnerable to blackmail by Russia. We're expecting to learn a lot more about all of this on Monday when Yates is scheduled to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee to answer questions about exactly what the Trump administration knew about Flynn's ties to Russia and when they knew it. Julie?
All right. Thank you very much. Greg?
Major drama ahead of tomorrow's presidential election in France. Authorities say a significant amount of data has surfaced online after the campaign of centrist candidate Emmanuel Macron was hacked. This coming only hours before voters go to the polls. Senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palkot live in Paris, where the sun is finally set. Greg, give us an update on this.
Hi, Greg. Yeah, it sounds like something out of last year's U.S. presidential election. French presidential leader Emmanuel Macron hit by a huge cyber data dump. Thousands of emails and documents seized from his campaign and posted online. Most of the material, we are told, said to be routine, but according to authorities, mixed in with that, fake news items clearly meant to sway this election. So far, we have seen no significant impact to frontrunner Macron. He is a centrist, an independent, a reformer, pro-EU, pro-NATO, and he has something like a 20% lead over far-right populist candidate Marine Le Pen. She is anti-EU, anti-immigrant. She says she is for France. Now today, Le Pen's campaign manager tweeted positively about the leak. Le Pen's positive tone about Moscow has some thinking here of a Russian connection, similar to last year's allegations about tampering with Hillary Clinton's campaign. Now, we spoke with folks on the street. They hadn't heard too much about this hacking. Authorities here are trying to keep a lid on it. Here in liberal Paris, we did hear a lot of support from Macron. In the French heartland, though, where the economy is absolutely slammed, the nationalist message coming from Marine Le Pen is really received well. We also did hear, though, from people here unhappy about both candidates, and abstention could also play a big role. Now, Greg, remember, neither of the leading candidates for the major parties are in this runoff. They got knocked off in the first round, but this election is so important that major figures from the United States have stepped in. Former President Obama taped a message of support for Macron. President Trump has spoken favorably in the past about Marine Le Pen. Just yesterday, the White House is saying that they will support whoever wins in tomorrow's election. Back to you.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch unfold tomorrow. Greg Palkot. Greg, thanks very much.
A major announcement from the Trump administration on the status of more than 24 national monuments nationwide. What it means for the fate of some of America's greatest treasures. Plus, House lawmakers launching a sweeping investigation looking into whether the Obama administration jeopardized national security in the lead-up to the Iran nuclear deal. Ambassador John Bolton will join us with his insight next.
We're both stuck in this cube farm, and you're about to hit send all on some embarrassing gas. Hey, you bought GasX! Unlike antacids, GasX relieves pressure and bloating fast. Crisis averted.
Finally, partner. Our own office. Selfie?
Yeah.
Okay, desk in the background.
Okay.
Best day ever.
When the unexpected strikes,
Don't worry, we've got you covered.
the Hartford strikes back.
It's not how fast you mow, it's how well you mow fast.
It's not how fast you mow, it's how well you mow fast.
It's not how fast you mow, it's how well you mow fast. It's not how fast you mow, it's how well you mow fast.
They're not just words to mow by, they're words to live by. The John Deere Z-Track Z345R with the Excel Deep Deck to mow faster, better. Take a test drive and save up to $250 on select John Deere residential Z-Track mowers.
Say no to this because of my bladder? Thanks to Tena, not anymore. Only new Tena Intimates has Pro Skin technology designed to quickly wick away moisture to help maintain your skin's natural balance. It goes beyond triple protection from leaks, odor, and moisture, so you can feel fresh and free to get as close as you want. Only Tena lets you be you.
With my moderate to severe Crohn's disease, I was always searching for ways to manage my symptoms. I thought I had it covered. Then I realized managing was all I was doing. When I finally told my doctor, he said Humira was for people like me, who've tried other medications but still experience the symptoms of moderate to severe Crohn's disease. In clinical studies, the majority of patients on Humira saw significant symptom relief, and many achieved remission.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
If you're still just managing your symptoms, ask your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, remission is possible.
A blow to Obamacare. Inside the GOP's healthcare win and the Senate fight ahead. Reince Priebus breaks down the bill only on Fox News Sunday.
We understand the value of hard work. We know great things don't happen overnight. We believe the greatest achievements are the ones you earn. With every appointment, every call, every mile. We get up earlier. We work harder. Because connecting you to what matters to us. That's who we are. Spectrum, redefining what a cable company can be.
Welcome back. Time for a quick check of the headlines right now. We're learning the identity of the Navy SEAL killed in action in Somalia, 38-year-old Kyle Milliken. He was a 15-year veteran who had been awarded the Bronze Star 4 times. Milliken was from Falmouth, Maine. 27 national monuments across the country may face rollbacks or elimination of protections. The Department of Interior releasing the list of mostly Western monuments. President Trump ordered the review, saying those protections were a massive land grab. And the first large Chinese-made passenger jetliner taking off in Shanghai. The flight marks a milestone in China's long-term goal to break into the aircraft market The state-owned company is hoping to complete and compete with Boeing and Airbus.
Leaders of the House Oversight Committee confirming a sweeping investigation is currently underway in whether the Obama administration dropped prosecutions against several Iranian fugitives accused of posing threats to national security in order to pass the nuclear deal. Ambassador John Bolton is a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Thank you so much for talking to us. And boy, this is a bit disturbing. Did the Obama administration's deal with Iran jeopardize our national security? What do you think?
Well, it certainly looks that way. There had been reports of criminal investigations and potential prosecutions being dropped around about the time in 2015 when the deal with Iran was actually struck. But in the past several days, there have been a lot more details that have come out. And now, as you say, we have this investigation by the House Oversight Committee. Really, it's very disturbing, not for the least of which reasons is that many of these investigations were of individuals suspected of proliferation-related activity, that is to say, potential procurement on behalf of Iran to assist their nuclear and ballistic missile programs, precisely what the focus of the Vienna deal with Iran was. So
Right.
the idea that these people somehow would escape further investigation simply to make it easier for the Ayatollahs to buy the deal, I think is very disturbing.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I mean, in their May 5th letter, Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz and Ron DeSantis asked Attorney General Jeff Sessions to produce Justice Department documents that they said would, quote, help the committee in better understanding these issues. And among them, Chaffetz wants details on 21 cases in which charges or warrants were dropped. What other cases are we talking about here?
Well, these are the ones that look like they were the subject of either FBI investigation or had gone before that, perhaps with testimony and evidence presented to a grand jury and perhaps even indictments issued. So that these were well developed, I think part of an ongoing effort that we've seen for quite some time to prevent agents from places like Iran and North Korea using American technology or derivatives of what we produce in their nuclear and ballistic missile programs. This is like giving something back to the Iranians that they can use again against us.
Absolutely.
These same people who are expert at procuring this high technology these products are now free to go roaming around again in aid of Iran's nuclear weapons program. And I think it reveals the broad problem here. We still don't know exactly how many side deals that the Obama administration cut with the Ayatollahs in order to facilitate the underlying deal itself.
First of all, you can't make a deal with Iran. I mean, it's like making a deal with North Korea. They don't uphold any nuclear deal. They haven't, and history speaks for itself. But trying to win support for a nuclear deal, what would you say would be the biggest mistake there? Because that prisoner swap, I mean, that gained a lot of criticism. By exchanging prisoners, you're essentially rewarding Iran, and they can do whatever they want with those prisoners, so there's no guarantee that they're going to continue to incarcerate them. What was your biggest problem with that?
Well, look, I'm with you. I wouldn't have done this deal at all, and I'd abrogate it at the earliest possible opportunity. I think what we've got here is Iran using the leverage, knowing that Obama wanted this deal a lot more than the Iranians wanted the deal, to extract concessions from the United States that are almost unthinkable. For example, the release of certain hostages that Iran had in exchange for a $1.5 billion settlement on a 35-year-old claim that wasn't going anywhere, 400 million of which, at least, that we know of, delivered in cash. Now you have the dropping of prosecutions. I'm not aware of any even vaguely comparable precedent for this kind of concession in any other international agreement the U.S. has ever entered into.
So then talk about the steps taken during the Obama administration to lessen the State Department's capacity that you write about when dealing with compliance in all international arms control agreements, because this precedent that has been set by the United States needs to be corrected.
Yeah, look, remarkably, about over 15 years ago, a bipartisan coalition led by Jesse Helms and Joe Biden, a political odd couple if there ever was one, came up with an agreement that the function of verifying compliance with arms control and anti-proliferation agreements would be given a separate bureau inside the State Department, so that it wouldn't be under the thumb of the very people who had negotiated the deals, who had a vested interest in saying the deal's a success. What happened under Obama was that those two offices were put back together again, effectively suppressing the voice of the verifiers. I think this is very serious. I think there's a lot we're going to learn about the Iran nuclear deal in the year and a half, now almost 2 years since it's been in effect, that just hasn't seen the light of day while Obama was president.
Yeah, and you look at that deal, and then you really do have to look at how North Korea is viewing all of this, because as we're trying to, rein in North Korea and the bad deals we made with Iran, it does not set a good precedent there. So obviously some big changes need to be made. Ambassador John Bolton, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greg.
Is trouble getting worse for former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn? New reaction to reports that Trump transition officials raised red flags over his contacts with Russia. And as President Trump returns home for the first time as Commander-in-Chief, we get a behind-the-scenes look at how the NYPD is raising the challenge of protecting him. Julie has that report.
New bike?
Yeah. Because I got
Allstate. If you total your new bike, they replace it with a brand new one.
That's cool. I got a new helmet.
We know, Steve. It's good to be in good hands.
You don't let anything keep you sidelined. That's why you drink Ensure with 9 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals. For the strength and energy to get back to doing what you love. Ensure. Always be you.
Is this a dream? Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up!
Publishers Clearinghouse could surprise you next with the new Win It All prize.
That's awesome.
$2 million immediately, plus $10,000 a month for life.
You gotta be kidding me.
And a new car.
Nobody's gonna believe me. Nobody.
Watch your mail or go to PCH.com and enter. Don't miss out. June 30th, you could win it all.
I hated our bathtub, but who has time for a remodel? Not this family. And then there's the mess. Then I heard about Bath Fitter. They came in and put a beautiful new bathtub right over our old one. Bath Fitter also has seamless walls that provide a watertight fit. There's no mess, no demolition, and they get it done in as little as 1 day. Plus, they provide a lifetime guarantee. Thanks to Bath Fitter, I have a bathtub I love.
Call today or learn more at bathfitter.com.
What's the secret to running a successful business? It takes vision, perseverance, and capital. The first two are up to you, but when it comes to capital, On Deck is a small business loan expert. Hi, I'm Barbara Corcoran. For me, having access to capital was a game changer. I turned $1,000 into one of New York's largest real estate companies. On Deck can get you the funding to take your business to the next level. If you have the vision, On Deck has the funding. To find out how much you qualify for, go to OnDeckTV.com.
Whether it's connecting one of the world's most innovative campuses or bringing Wi-Fi to 65,000 fans, businesses count on communication, and communication counts on CenturyLink. CenturyLink, your link to what's next.
As soon as I left the hospital after a DVT blood clot, I sure had a lot to think about. What about the people I care about, including this little girl? And what if this happened again? I was given warfarin in the hospital, but wondered, was this the best treatment for me? So I asked my doctor, and he recommended Eliquis. Eliquis treats DVT and PE blood clots and reduces the risk of them happening again. Yes, Eliquis treats DVT and PE blood clots. Eliquis also had significantly less major bleeding than the standard treatment. Both made me turn around my thinking.
Don't stop Eliquis unless your doctor tells you to. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. If you had a spinal injection while on Eliquis, call your doctor right away if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer than usual for bleeding to stop. Seek immediate medical care for sudden signs of bleeding like unusual bruising. Eliquis may increase your bleeding risk if you take certain medicines. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures.
Eliquis treats DVT and PE blood clots, plus had less major bleeding. Both made Eliquis the right treatment for me. Ask your doctor if switching to Eliquis is right for you.
David, you have one of the worst cavities I have ever seen. Okay, have a good day.
Aren't you gonna fix it?
Well, I'm not a dentist. I'm a dental monitor. I just tell you when you have a bad cavity.
That's bad. Lunch?
Oh, yes.
Where are you going?
Why monitor a problem if you don't fix it? That's why free credit monitoring isn't enough to protect you. At LifeLock, we not only alert you to identity threats, if you have a problem, we'll spend up to $1 million on lawyers and experts who'll work to fix it. LifeLock. Try 60 days risk-free using promo code CAVITY.
Fox News alert and breaking news. Nigerian officials telling Reuters Boko Haram militants have released 82 schoolgirls out of a group of more than 200. As you may probably remember, the girls were all kidnapped from a town in the country's north back in 2014. The girls reportedly released after negotiations with government officials. However, we don't yet know the terms of those negotiations, and we'll keep an eye on this breaking story as we get more information.
Former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn back in the headlines amid reports that the Trump transition team raised concerns about his contacts with Russia months before he was forced to resign. And it comes as former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates is prepared to testify before a Senate panel this week about her warnings about Flynn to the White House. Let's bring in Jamie Weinstein, political commentator, host of the Jamie Weinstein Show podcast. Jamie, good to see you.
Good to see you.
General Flynn may be gone from the Trump administration, but does he continue to hang like a political albatross over the neck of President Trump? And is that fair, or to some extent might it be unfair?
Well, look, there is a lot of smoke with the Russia connection to the Trump campaign. I think we should be clear, there is no evidence to date that the Trump campaign ever colluded with Russia. Those are what the investigations are looking into. But there is a lot of smoke, whether it's General Flynn or Paul Manafort or Carter Page and their connections with Russia. Clearly, the intelligence community believes that Russia was attempting to influence the election through their hacking and leaking of emails of the DNC. So this is why the investigation in the Senate continues, and why, as we understand, that there's an FBI investigation into this. A lot of smoke mean nothing, but there might be fire there, and that's why we need to see where these investigations lead.
I would think that General Flynn would well know that any and every Russian government official, especially the U.S. ambassador, the Russian ambassador to the U.S., would have ties to Russian intelligence. Geez, everybody does. And that Flynn would therefore be guarded in his conversation with Sergei Kislyak. And, for all we know, maybe he was. Yeah, the FBI is investigating that conversation, but, Jamie, so far there's no evidence of any wrongdoing that we're aware of, is there?
Well, no, there is no evidence of collusion yet, and that's what the investigation is looking into. But as you said, you think that General Flynn would know a lot of things, including he should disclose the money he got from RT, which he did not do when he took the job as National Security Advisor.
Well, but it didn't come directly from the Moscow government, but simply came from a news organization that has the backing of the Kremlin. And arguably, that's not a violation.
Which is well known by General Flynn to be a propaganda arm of the Russian government.
Right.
If you watch
but if his check comes from RT, Russia Today, and not from the government, then it doesn't fall under the rule of disclosure.
Yeah. Well, I think that General Flynn in the intelligence community, he would well know the connection of RT to the Russian government. But again, it could be innocuous. These could just be smoke and no fire there. But that's what these investigations are about. And from my monitoring of the Senate Intelligence Committee that has conducted the investigation, their first hearing a few weeks ago, they did a quite good job. It was very bipartisan, and we'll see if that continues tomorrow. Sure. And I think that there's enough smoke to continue investigating here. But as you mentioned, we don't have evidence yet of collusion.
No, and it may end up that way. And it invites the question: is there a conspicuous double standard here? I mean, after he won and before he took office, President Obama and his aides spoke with a great many foreign leaders, likely the Russians as well. I mean, so is the Trump administration really being held to a different and unfair standard?
Well, I don't think it's really the talking to the ambassador of Russia that's the problem here. And even in the story that released today, that didn't strike me as the most worrisome aspect. If you went down to the bottom of the story, it mentioned that there were members of the Trump transition who were taking classified information, copying it out of a secured setting that raised alarms, that made them actually go only allowed to see this information in the White House. So I think there's other questions beyond the meetings with the ambassador of Russia that have raised concerns. And it's all the smoke, not just that meeting with the ambassador that has raised alarms. So I think that's a fair concern. That's
one of the stories today say, well, it was a red flag to the Trump administration that they were trying to establish back channels with the Russians. Well, my goodness, we've been trying to do that for decades. And famously, President Kennedy did it with his brother during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And who was the back channel with? It was the Russian ambassador in the United States. So this... In truth, historically, this isn't terribly unusual. We'll have to leave.
I agree with you. The meetings themselves are not necessarily what raise alarms for me. It's perhaps the dishonesty of the general telling, Vice President Pence that he didn't really have those contacts.
And he got fired for it.
Right, and all the smoke that surrounds it beyond the meetings themselves.
Right.
So I think that's where the real concern is. The meetings alone are probably not the most concerning aspect.
All right. Jamie Weinstein, always great to see you, Jamie. Thanks.
Nice to see you.
When the president comes to New York City, keeping him safe is a top priority, a huge task. That's an understatement. Well, earlier this week, the city launched a massive security operation to prepare for President Trump's first visit to his hometown since taking office. And providing that kind of security for the occasion requires many layers of NYPD resources and highly trained units at the ready. I got a first-hand exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what it all entails. Take a look. For the first time since it began in 1845, the New York City Police Department is tasked with protecting a U.S. president who calls the Big Apple home. An enormous responsibility, but like no other police force in the world, the NYPD is up for the job. Among its active force of 36,000 officers is a team of 1,500 men and women devoted to one job: counterterrorism. And with the president's first visit this week since getting elected, the job becomes that much more critical behind the scenes to not only protect the president, but to protect this great city and its millions of residents.
We're protecting the President of the United States if he's in residence, working for the Secret Service. Two, when he's not in residence, we're protecting a building that went from being one of the buildings on Fifth Avenue to what could be argued is now a symbolic target.
A job that takes intense training and many layers within the NYPD.
Whether it's the Counterterrorism Bureau, which is the bomb squad, the radiation detections, the network of camera systems, the explosive detection dogs, the biohazard detection devices, or the Intelligence Bureau, which is the investigations, the sources of information.
Layer 1, officers armed with long guns visible to the public guarding Trump Tower. Together with the Secret Service, the Counterterrorism Critical Response Command teams, or CRC, have President Trump's every step covered. Layer 2, the not-so-visible NYPD counter-sniper team. And we got an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at how they train using a magnified scope on an M4 assault rifle.
So at the 200 yards, that magnified scope allows us to center in on a target and crosshair a target at 200 yards, just as if it was 25 feet away. We prepare everything from a hostage situation, so where we would take that 200-yard shot up to that 200-yard shot, anything from a perp search, a man with a gun, so we can protect our team as they walk in.
Using simulation training, officers are placed in real-life scenarios, armed with virtual weapons from a handgun and mace to a baton and taser. Here, I'm responding to shots fired and have been told there's an active shooter inside a New York City bodega. I find bloodied bodies on the floor. The lesson in these scenarios is not to overreact, but to be ready to use force if needed. I draw my gun, but it's too late. I try again. Next, I respond to a forced entry and burglary. I encounter someone inside. This time, I'm ready. After refusing to follow orders, he raises an object at me. I shoot. But was it the right move? Did I get him?
You did, but that was the stapler.
An eye-opening reminder of the intense pressure trained police officers are under every day, knowing it takes just 1 second to make a life or death decision. And Layer 3, an eye in the sky.
Sniper teams are not the only counterterrorism layer the NYPD provides. In fact, heavily armed officers or ESU teams are at the ready to rappel from helicopters like this one, either onto the ground or onto rooftops.
The Emergency Service Unit, or ESU, not only has a Plan A, B, and C in place, there's a Plan D. These teams are trained to respond to the unpredictable. In a scenario requiring force, officers can deploy from a helicopter onto any platform anywhere in the city within minutes.
So, a tremendous resource in terms of people and costs. The good news, though, for New York City taxpayers is that Congress announced this week it has approved a federal budget to reimburse the city of the tens of millions of dollars it's already spent and foot the massive security bills moving forward. Also in Mar-a-Lago, because when the president goes to Florida, his estate there, that costs people there money as well.
Does.
So the government will be paying for it.
I learned a lot. I mean, it was very informative.
I'm a sharp shot. You better watch out.
You shot a guy armed with a stapler.
Well, there you go.
That's
See,
a deadly weapon.
But it does speak volumes, because when we hear of these stories where these officers in the field and they don't have backup in a lot of these small towns,
right,
and they shoot somebody that unfortunately pulled out a bag of Skittles. I mean, these are real life scenarios.
Right. Of course.
It's either you shoot or the officer potentially dies.
I would never want to be in their position, and frankly, I'd never want you in their position either.
Well, clearly not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But thank you to the NYPD otherwise
they
for
were great.
giving us
John
that
Miller is
exclusive
always fantastic. He's
access. Absolutely. All right, moving on.
Millions on alert right now in the Midwest as the Mississippi River reaches near record levels after days of heavy rain and flooding. Plus, the Republican health care bill passed by the House is now squarely in the hands of the Senate, where it faces perhaps a significant makeover. Our panel is here to weigh in on the potential hurdles ahead.
We're not going to get ahead of the legislative process. We expect there to be some changes, but we expect the principles and the main pillars of the health care bill as it exists now to remain the same.
Topical pain relievers can seem very similar until you take a closer look at this one. Salonpas Pain Relief Patch. Salonpas isn't just the first. It's the only FDA-approved OTC topical NSAID. Our clinical trials proved it works up to 12 hours against mild to tougher moderate pain, making Salonpas the strongest labeled pain reliever available without a prescription. That's powerful relief you can feel. Salonpas for tough pain.
Do you love your mattress? Well, at Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale, we make it easy to love your mattress with savings of up to $1,000 on Beautyrest, Serta, and more. And complete your sleep with up to $300 towards a pillow, mattress frame, or mattress protector. And we're making it even easier to love your mattress with our 120-day money-back guarantee. Plus, sleep interest-free for 5 years. So, love your mattress, guaranteed. Only during Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale.
Where are Mom and Dad? Save money on motorcycle insurance with Geico going up the country. Look, Mom and Dad. I'm taking a nap. Dude, you just woke up.
Geico Motorcycle. Great rates for great rides.
Sherry's berries are delicious.
They look too pretty to eat, but believe me, I'm gonna eat them.
She sent me a hug in a box.
It was like I was a princess or something.
He really does appreciate me.
Mom will like whatever you give her this Mother's Day, but she'll really love a gift from Sherry's Berries. Send Mom fresh gourmet strawberries dipped and decorated with all her favorite toppings, starting at $19.99. Or double the berries for $9.99 more. Simply go to berries.com, click on the mic in the upper right corner, and enter code GIVE. Mom will be really glad you did.
Look, I love them.
Well, you're more than welcome. I love you, love you, love you.
And it was like I was there with you, on Mother's Day.
Don't miss this chance. Surprise her with decadent strawberries in our signature gift box, starting at $19.99, or double the berries for $9.99 more. We'll deliver her gift by Mother's Day, guaranteed, or your money back. Take a hint from Mom. This is what she wants for Mother's Day. Go to berries.com, click the mic, and enter code GIVE. Order today.
Introducing Lean 13 from Nutrisystem. Lose up to 13 pounds in your first month, guaranteed.
Lose up to 13 pounds fast with the new Lean 13 from Nutrisystem.
Your 13 can turn into 20, 30, 50, even more. I'm Marie and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem. You'll see results right away. Count, measure, meetings? No, not with Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day plan right now and we'll rush you Lean 13. Get specially designed meals, plus 1 week of new NutriCrush bars to crush cravings free. And 1 week of Turbo Shakes to bust belly bloat free.
Bye-bye, stubborn belly fat.
Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping free. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall your first month.
Your first 13 pounds? Gone.
Go online or call 888-828-THIN right now and get new Lean 13 with bars and shakes free.
The average traveler visits loads of different websites before booking their hotel. That's fair enough. You want to make sure you get a great hotel for the best price. There are so many websites out there. How can you visit them all? Well, before you book, check on Trivago. Trivago instantly compares prices from more than 250 websites and apps. And that's how Trivago finds your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
House Republicans celebrating after the passage of a new health care bill. But the new bill could get a complete makeover in the Senate. A group of senators is already drafting their own health care legislation. We are joined now by Marjorie Clifton, former consultant to President Obama's campaign and principal of Clifton Consulting, and Guy Benson, Fox News contributor and political editor for townhall.com. Thank you both for talking to us. All right, so Marjorie, let me first just go to you and ask you, I mean, do you see this as just basically being set up to fail? Is this going to be rewritten by the Senate? Did the House just do this all for nothing? What's the next step moving forward?
Well, the House put this together pretty darn quickly and pushed it through pretty darn quickly, and I think the Senate Republicans are looking at this a little bit on a different side. First of all, anyone who passes this bill has got to carry it into their districts and then for voting, and there's been a lot of upheaval around the cost to the to the elderly, to people with pre-existing conditions, and large populations of people. They estimate about 24 million would lose their health insurance, and this is a tricky spot to be in. Anyone who picks up health care is carrying a very hot potato because managing it is very unwieldy and it's very complicated. So one of the things, so I think that being able to get the CBO to assess it, really understand the economic impacts, and they think that this may take months for them to put something new together, but it will look very, very different.
Okay, then let's talk about pre-existing conditions, because that's something that has been just going viral online. Guy, first of all, you say that that whole premise out there that pre-existing conditions are not covered, or that if you have a pre-existing condition and whatever you have is considered a pre-existing condition according to the House bill, that you're going to end up paying more. Is there truth to that or not? Let's just put that to rest.
Yeah, it's mostly a myth under this bill. So a few points. First, under the health care bill as it currently stands, and as you point out, it's going to change in the Senate for sure, but the House-passed bill requires everyone, every state, insurers must cover people with pre-existing conditions. That's step one. Step two is, if you are continuously insured, meaning that you have coverage now or you get it before the new law goes into effect, you have it through your job or any other way, if you were to lose that insurance or lose your job, insurers must take you on, regardless of pre-existing conditions, at the same price as everyone else. That is across every state. That is true under this bill. The only thing that some people might be pointing out is, under the bill, there are some states that can apply for and get waivers for community rating, which is making sure that you can't charge people more if they're sick. They could get a waiver for that. If that's the case, however, you can't be waived if you have continuous insurance. You can't have a higher price tag attached to your care, but if you don't have insurance and you live in a state that asks for a waiver and gets one, then you might have to pay more, which is where the high-risk pools come in, which are funded to the tune of about $130 billion in the bill.
Okay, and that's where the Senate and moderate Republicans, though, might want to tweak this, Marjorie, correct?
Right, and I think, this bill essentially is bringing us back to where we were pre-Affordable Care Act, which actually doesn't have some of the things that he's highlighting, because the opt-in for states is the key piece of this. So while, if you have continuous coverage, it stays the same, but it doesn't mean, for example, that certain health insurers won't pull out of certain states. So you may not have that plan even available to you where you did before. And then what kicks in is that the insurance companies do not have the same controls that they had on them. So if you are a sicker patient, if you fall into a high-risk group, your rates may go through the roof.
So in other words, what you're saying is that if you're healthy, you're good, but if you're sick, you're not. If you're elderly, you're not. If you're young, you're good. And what about being pregnant? Because, a lot of the questions are talk about coverage of pre-existing conditions, but what exactly constitutes them? And apparently pregnancy does. Can we just throw up the video, if we could, of the lawmakers that passed this bill? Because I just sort of kind of want to try to make a point here. If you look closely, you'll notice one woman, two women. Do you see any other women there? No. Okay, so now my question is this. You have a predominantly male group of congressmen who are passing legislation that are deeming pre-existing conditions such as pregnancy, such as mammograms, such as vaccination, such as sexual abuse victims, women who need to be treated for that. Those are all pre-existing conditions under this. I also want to make one mention. Viagra is covered. Guy, go ahead.
Yeah, so the point about sexual assault and rape, that was given 4 Pinocchios by the Washington Post today. It's just not true. And actually, under the bill, I completely disagree. It's not accurate to say that if it became law as is, which it won't, but even if it did, that it would bring us back to pre-Obamacare on all of this stuff. No, guaranteed issue is still the law of the land, and as are 10 of these essential health benefit areas that Obamacare created. They remain in the law. That includes pregnancy and a lot of the other things that you mentioned. Certain states can ask for opt-outs. They would have to prove that they're doing it to reduce premiums and cover more people. But there are a lot of lawmakers across the country, all the states in America before Obamacare had all sorts of regulations and mandates as well, most of which stay in the law under the ACHA.
But the option is there for them to opt out, and I think that's where the likelihood of that happening maybe not so high, but the fact that they have the option, I think, scares some. Marjorie, I'm going to give you the final word. We got to get going.
And I want to say to your point about the number of women, and I would say minorities as well represented.
Okay.
I say that men aren't bad guys, but before prostate cancer was funded 8 times more than ovarian cancer, and that's just because guys don't have ovaries. And so there are fundamental things that women and minorities are important for, just to again represent the interests of all people as our government was designed to do.
There were plenty of women at that ceremony.
Marjorie, Guy, thank you very much. We'll have more in a moment.
Thank you.
Yes, 9 o'clock works for me. Bye. Another referral. Our customers love us.
When the unexpected strikes,
Don't worry, we've got you covered.
the Hartford strikes back.
For 4 days only at Joseph A. Bank, save up to 60% on almost everything. With all 1905 suits just $249, dress pants just $99, and all dress shirts and sports shirts 2 for $89. Only at Joseph A. Bank.
Why do we insist on 100% Alaskan whitefish? Why do we always hand dip in our famous batter? Cook it to golden perfection and serve it with fries for just $1.99? Because at Long John Silver's, we think you deserve more for $1.99.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
There's a more enjoyable way to get your fiber. Try Phillips Fiber Good Gummies. They're delicious and a good source of fiber to help support regularity.
These are good. Nice work, Phillips.
Try Phillips Fiber Good Gummies.
Her loss wasn't her fault. Kellyanne Conway reacts to Hillary's blame game on justice. Then, Stephen Colbert fires at Trump, and it's got Greg fired up tonight on Gutfeld.
Premier Health.
response time you can bet your life on.
The future. It keeps bringing new surprises. But for over 100 years, AAA has been ready to help. Like creating home insurance built to protect members, whatever comes next. For AAA, a changing world is nothing new. Insurance that's not just insurance.
It's Health Foods Unlimited's 40th anniversary sale. Hydrate like never before with real alkalized water. Premium alkaline drinking water with a pH of 8. Get real water. On sale now. Traditional Medicinals has been carefully crafting wellness tea since 1974. Now save 45% on the entire line of high-quality organic herbal teas for relaxation, detox, women, and more.
Health Foods Unlimited, a natural way of caring for you.
When it comes to trauma emergencies, the object isn't just to beat the clock, it's also to keep it ticking. Premier Health. Response time you can bet your life on.
Tell you about in the alleged hazing incident, the death of a fraternity pledge at Penn State University 3 months ago. Leah Gabriel has more now from our newsroom. Leah?
Greg, prosecutors say the Penn State sophomore suffered for hours before he died, and his so-called brothers at the fraternity did nothing to get him help until it was too late. The Beta Theta Pi fraternity and 8 of its members were charged yesterday with involuntary manslaughter. On February 4th, 19-year-old Timothy Piazza died from a traumatic brain injury. According to the grand jury report, at this frat house, he was forced to drink excessive amounts of alcohol. After running a drinking gauntlet, he fell and hit his head repeatedly, including down a flight of stairs. His father says his son died because of disregard for moral values.
In honor of our son, and are committed to doing everything that we can to assure that no other parents will have to go through the pain and grief we are currently experiencing.
The grand jury report says fraternity members tried to cover up what happened that night. Security camera footage showed Piazza staggering towards the steps he fell down. They carried him up those steps, shook him, propped him up, and tried to dress him before someone finally called 911. Well, the university disbanded the fraternity in late March, and in a statement, its president described details of the allegations as sickening and incomprehensible. The first 10 defendants were arraigned yesterday and released on bail. The others will be in court next week. Lesser charges including hazing and aggravated assault, and those charged with involuntary manslaughter, Greg, could face up to 5 years in prison.
All right, Leah Gabriel. Leah, thanks very much. We hate to leave you on such a sad story, but, you know, it's obviously a very important story, and every parent who has kids going to college, you know, you worry about these things.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for us. The news continues with Eric Shawn, Laura Engel. I'll see you back on the Fox Report at 7, and it was great to be with you.
Great to be with you, too.
To do the best for your pet, you should know more about the food you choose. With Beyond, you have a natural pet food that goes beyond telling ingredients to showing where they come from. Beyond assuming the source is safe to knowing it is. Beyond asking for trust to earning it. Because honestly, our pets deserve it. Beyond natural pet food.
I no longer live with the uncertainties of Hep C, wondering, what if? I let go of all those feelings because I am cured with Harvoni.
Harvoni is a revolutionary treatment for the most common type of chronic hepatitis C. It's been prescribed to more than 250,000 people and is proven to cure up to 99% of patients who've had no prior treatment with 12 weeks. Certain patients can be cured with just 8 weeks of Harvoni. Before starting Harvoni, your doctor will test to see if you've ever had hepatitis B, which may flare up and cause serious liver problems during and after Harvoni treatment. Tell your doctor if you've ever had hepatitis B, a liver transplant, other liver or kidney problems, HIV, or any other medical conditions, and about all the medicines you take, including herbal supplements. Taking amiodarone with Harvoni can cause a serious slowing of your heart rate. Common side effects of Harvoni include tiredness, headache, and weakness.
Ready to let go of Hep C?
Ask your Hep C specialist about Harvoni.
I joined the Army in July of '98.
Our 18-year-old was in an accident. When I call USA, it was that voice asking me, is your daughter okay? That's where I felt relief.
We're the Rivera family, and we will be with USAA for life.
Save up to 65%. Call 1-800-BEACHES.
As a working mom, I'm thankful my mom is able to help out.
Awesome.
So I bought her the all-new Jitterbug Flip from Great Call. It's a cell phone she actually enjoys using.
Yeah, and from the T-Rex.
She loves it and takes it everywhere. It's so easy to use, and with a larger screen and bigger buttons, it's even easier to dial.
Let's send it to her.
There's also a 5-star button on the keypad, so I know she can always get help.
One touch of the 5-star button turns the Jitterbug into a personal safety device. In any unsafe or uncertain situation, you'll be immediately connected to a highly trained agent who can confirm your location, assess the situation, and get you the help you need.
Now it's easy for us to stay in touch.
What'd you say?
So cute.
Service starts as low as $14.99 a month, or choose the all-new Jitterbug Smart. And right now, get 25% off at Best Buy, Rite Aid, or Sears.
Exclusively from Great Call.
Stitch Fix is a personal styling service. They pick out all the styles that you love and even give you pieces that you never thought that you would wear.
I can never find my sizes sometimes when I'm at the store. It's nice to know that the clothes are actually going to fit me.
It's so fun, so easy. The box comes right to your door so you don't have to go anywhere.
I rarely get to the store, so if the store comes to me, that's even better.
No shipping costs, and I just saved myself a ton of time.
Now I have more than one pair of pants.
Hello, I'm Eric Shawn, and this is a brand new hour of America's News Headquarters.
And I'm Laura Engel in for Arthel Neville. Topping the news this hour, new details emerging on the Trump transition team's warning to Michael Flynn about his Russia contacts and what it means for multiple investigations now underway.
And a Texas police officer has turned himself in, facing murder charges in the killing of a 15-year-old boy.
Plus, allegations of election meddling rocking the country of France, with just hours to go until a pivotal election with major implications for both Europe and the U.S.
But first, we begin this afternoon with President Trump's weekend at his New Jersey estate. This after his victory for the administration and House Republicans in their effort to repeal and replace Obamacare. The president now likely charting the political road ahead as the Senate next prepares to take up that issue of health care. Brian Yennis is live near Bedminster, New Jersey, near the golf club where the president is staying this weekend. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Eric. Well, it's clear the president and the White House view this health care bill, this House health care bill, as a victory, and they're continuing to tout it as such, considering, though, despite the fact that Senate Republicans are speaking out against this health care bill. You even have Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri saying, point in fact, that the Senate bill is going to be entirely different than the House bill. So some real hurdles are still left. The big things that they're speaking about are pre-existing conditions and Medicaid cuts. Those are the big concerns for Senate Republicans. With pre-existing conditions under this new bill, states can actually make the decision, give the option for insurers to essentially charge more for pre-existing conditions. Also, on top of that, under this new bill, seniors could be charged more by insurers, as well as the Medicaid cuts. Ohio's Republican Senator Rob Portman saying, look, there are millions of lower-income Americans who depend on Medicaid for insurance after the Obamacare's Medicaid expansion, who would now lose their insurance under this new bill. That is why they are concerned. So big concerns moving through, but still, nonetheless, President Trump and the White House remain optimistic. In a weekly address just yesterday, President Trump said, look, this is better than Obamacare, and the White House says that they fully expect that the Senate to keep the heart of this bill intact. Listen.
And now I'm calling on the Senate to take action. Repealing and replacing Obamacare will be a big, big win for the American people.
We expect there to be some changes, but we expect the principles and the main pillars of the health care bill as it exists now to remain the same.
So the White House acknowledges that there's going to have to be compromise between the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans on this bill. The question is whether or not the president will be able to rally the Senate as he was able to rally the House to go after this bill twice in as many months to try to repeal and replace Obamacare. Well, earlier, former Trump advisor Corey Lewandowski spoke on Fox and Friends, and he says that he fully expects the president to continue to play an active role in making sure this legislation passes.
He's going to be working the phones. He's going to be meeting with individuals, I'm sure, in the U.S. Senate to get a piece of legislation done. If he's required to go out and campaign and get on the stump like he did in Harrisburg last weekend to push his bill forward to make sure we can get repeal and replace done, he's willing to do that. And he has a great microphone to bypass the mainstream media, the fake news. He can go directly to the American people and put pressure on those U.S. senators who aren't willing to hold to their promise to get repeal and replace done.
Meanwhile, the president continues to have meetings and take calls in Bedminster, New Jersey this weekend, where there were a handful of pro-Trump and anti-Trump protests 4 miles from his golf club. And actually, we are away from his golf club just about for a few minutes. That's why you've been hearing some children playing basketball and laughing. We're staying at the hotel with the White House press pool away from the golf club, which is actually better for the president, because it's really hard to organize protests over there as opposed to doing protests in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. A plus here for having the summer White House in the middle in Bedminster, New Jersey, 45 miles west of New York City. Eric?
All right, Brian. Well, maybe the spring White House. Well, these kids are sound like they're playing basketball or having fun out there while their president is nearby. So life goes on. Brian, thank you. Laura?
And Eric, I was just there for the last 2 days. President Trump's first visit to his Bedminster, New Jersey getaway at the Trump National Golf Club is now in its second full day. Now, this is the first time Mr. Trump has returned to his golf club as commander-in-chief, which means ramped up security and extra protection. And that will be a costly endeavor in this small township, which has just under 9,000 residents and a police force of just 16, and that is including the police chief. The Secret Service is in charge of the overall operation, of course, while President Trump is in town, using local resources, along with state police and other regional law enforcement agencies. And each out-of-town visit for the president can really add up. I spoke with the mayor of Bedminster yesterday, who told me that an average weekend of a presidential visit will cost that township about $42,000.
That may not sound like much if you live in New York City or Florida for those costs, but for a town like Bedminster, each visit then is about 0.5% of our total town's budget. Not our police budget, not our overtime budget, but our total town's budget.
This sleepy rural community will be getting some relief, though. President Trump signed a budget bill Friday that will allocate $61 million to reimburse local law enforcement for protecting the president when he is in Palm Beach, New York, and Bedminster. And while some protesters have gathered there, and you saw in Brian's report, to make their voices heard, others say they think the countryside visit is great, hoping it brings more business to the area. Eric?
It looks very pretty.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Absolutely. Well, meanwhile, back to business in Washington, and new revelations about former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and those talks that he had with the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak. Well, new reports say that Flynn was cautioned by Trump transition team officials not to talk with the Russians. That warning, we're told, made weeks ahead of that call that ultimately led to Flynn's resignation. This certainly will be raised at the Senate hearing on the Russian hacking that's set for Monday. Garrett Tenney is live in our Washington, D.C. bureau with the very latest details. Hi, Garrett.
Well, Eric, it's no secret that our government often monitors the communications of foreign officials, and that's especially true when those officials are suspected of working with their government's intelligence agencies. And that's really why the several transition team officials were so concerned with General Flynn meeting Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, particularly with all of the allegations of Russia's interference in our election. And according to the Associated Press, those transition officials felt like Flynn wasn't taking their concerns seriously. So much so that one of them asked the Obama White House for a copy of the CIA's classified profile on Kislyak and gave it to Flynn to look through before that meeting. Current and former officials told the AP that it's not clear whether or not Flynn actually reviewed those documents, but despite the warnings, he ultimately did meet with the Russian ambassador a month later and then had a series of other conversations with him as well, in which sanctions against Russia were discussed. Those conversations were picked up by U.S. intelligence agencies, which is how the administration found out that Flynn had lied to the vice president and the White House about the discussions. It's also what prompted Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates to warn the White House that Flynn's lying could make him vulnerable to blackmail by Russia. And it wasn't until several weeks later, though, that Flynn was forced to step down, and that's something that Senate investigators are planning to ask Yates about on Monday when she's scheduled to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Eric?
That should be fascinating, and we'll see what she says. James Clapper will also testify, so we'll see if he adds to his saying that there was no collusion or evidence of that so far. Garrett, thank you.
You got it.
And a white Texas police officer who fatally shot a black teenager is now facing a murder charge. Roy Oliver turning himself in yesterday just hours after a warrant was issued for his arrest. Investigators say he fired a gun at a car leaving a party in the Dallas area last weekend, killing 15-year-old Jordan Edwards. Will Carr is live from Dallas with the latest on this one. Will, why was Oliver charged here?
Well, Laura, the department's story has changed the week, but it's now clear that Oliver was charged with murder because video shows that he was shooting at a car that was driving away from him. Oliver was a 6-year veteran of the Balch Springs Police Department as well as an Army veteran, and now he's accused of shooting 15-year-old Jordan Edwards. He was a committed athlete in high school who wanted to play college football. He was also a straight-A student. Now, this all happened last Saturday night. Oliver and another officer responded to a house party and say they thought that they heard gunshots in the area, then saw a car filled with 5 black teenagers leaving the property. Initially, the police chief said that the car was aggressively driving in reverse towards the officers, and that's why Oliver fired, but video from their body cameras told a different story that resulted in Oliver being fired Tuesday and then charged last night.
In less than a week, we have an officer that got fired. We have an officer that has an arrest warrant, and it's an arrest warrant for the highest charge that we have in this country, well, besides capital murder.
Oliver turned himself in last night and posted a $300,000 bond. Edwards was laid to rest today, and his family asked for demonstrators to keep protest away until after that funeral. Laura.
And Will, we see he's not the only officer in the headlines this week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. On Tuesday, a former South Carolina police officer pled guilty after he shot an unarmed black man in the back. And then on Wednesday, the Department of Justice declined to charge 2 officers in the death of Alton Sterling last year in Baton Rouge. The Louisiana Attorney General could still proceed with state charges in that case, and Sterling's family is pleading for him to do that. Laura.
Will Carr in our Dallas Bureau today. Thank you, Will.
You bet.
Well, we will likely know if the center or the nationalist wins in France 24 hours from now. Voters hit the polls tomorrow in that country, making their voices heard in the presidential election that some say could change Europe and global politics. But today, the campaign of moderate Emmanuel Macron was thrown into crisis control after it says it suffered that massive and coordinated hacking attack, they said. And again, Russia is being accused of trying to throw that election to Macron's more pro-Putin rival, Marine Le Pen. Senior Foreign Affairs correspondent Greg Palcott has more from Paris.
Eric, it sounds like something out of last year's U.S. presidential election. French presidential leader Emmanuel Macron hit by a cyber data dump. Thousands of emails and documents were seized from his campaign, posted online. Most of the material, it is reported, fairly routine, but according to authorities, mixed in fake news. Clearly, the election was attempted to be influenced. So far, no sign of an impact on frontrunner Macron. He is a centrist independent reformer. He's pro-EU, pro-NATO, and right now he has over a 20% lead in the polls over far-right populist candidate Marine Le Pen. She is anti-EU, anti-immigrant, and she says she is for France. Le Pen's campaign manager tweeted positively today about the leak. Le Pen's positive tone regarding Moscow has some thinking of a Russian connection reminiscent of last year's tampering with the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, we spoke with some folks on the street here in Paris today. They hadn't heard too much about the hack, Authorities trying to keep a lid on it here in liberal Paris. We heard a lot of support for Macron. In the French heartland, though, where the economy is slammed, Le Pen's nationalist message is playing well. We also did hear, though, from people here who don't like either candidate, and that indeed could play a role. Now, remember that no major party candidate is in this runoff. They got knocked off in the first round of voting. Major U.S. figures are weighing in, though. This vote is so important. Former President Obama taping a message in support of Macron. In the past, President Trump has spoken favorably about Marine Le Pen. Yesterday, though, the White House said that they would work with whoever wins tomorrow's elections. Eric.
All right, Greg, thanks so much. We will be on it tomorrow. Laura?
And Republican lawmakers in the House winning round one of the battle over health care reform. But their Senate colleagues could be planning some major reform of their own, setting up a knockdown, drag-out round two. Plus, new satellite images suggest that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is building artificial islands in the Yellow Sea, possibly for military use. General Jack Keane weighs in on the regime's surging weapons program.
If you have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, isn't it time to let the real you shine through? Introducing Otezla, apremilast. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats plaque psoriasis differently. Some people who took Otezla saw 75% clearer skin after 4 months. And Otezla's prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't take Otezla if you are allergic to any of its ingredients. Otezla may increase the risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Side effects may include diarrhea, nausea, upper respiratory tract infection, and headache. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Ask your dermatologist about Otezla today. Otezla. Show more of you.
Remember when you said men are superior drivers?
Yeah?
Yeah. Then how'd I get this?
Allstate Safe Driving Bonus Check. Only Allstate sends you a bonus check for every 6 months you're accident-free. Silence. It's good to be in good hands.
USA Today and Time Magazine named the Ring Video Doorbell top gadget. Why? Because with Ring, you're always home. You can see and speak to whoever's at your home from your smartphone. Available at ring.com and these fine retailers.
My name's Ron and I lost 80 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Men, pay attention. Have a big belly? Want to raise your testosterone? Like to have more energy and improve your lean muscle mass? Then lose weight with Nutrisystem for men.
I'm past 6 and I lost 43 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guarantee. Shrink the belly. Raise testosterone. Higher testosterone, more drive. So come on, put down the chips. Get on the phone and get with the program today. We'll rush you 1 week of all new Nutri-Crush bars to crush cravings, free. And 1 week of protein-packed turbo shakes to bust that gut, free.
Pizza, pasta, burgers, man food. At 54, I have more energy, more focus, more stamina.
Lose weight and burn body fat. Call or go online in the next 2 minutes, and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping, free. Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month.
Do it. Do it now. Don't wait.
Go online or call 877-842-SIZE right now and get Nutrisystem for Men with bars and shakes free.
American healthcare wins round one. Now, Bill Cassidy gives us its chances in the Senate. Plus, Colbert, Kimmel, why Hollywood has gone way too far on Media Buzz.
We understand the value of hard work. We know great things don't happen overnight. We believe the greatest achievements are the ones you earn. With every appointment, every call, every mile. We get up earlier. We work harder. Because connecting you to what matters to us. That's who we are. Spectrum. redefining what a cable company can be.
Well, the Republican health care plan has now passed the House, but it faces its next big hurdle, and that's going to the Senate, as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle consider some major changes to the legislation that passed on Thursday. Ellison Barber in Washington with more on what we can expect.
Supporters of the bill in the House celebrated its passage in a big way at the Rose Garden with the president. But that is just the first step. In the Senate, the debate is only beginning.
Well, the Senate will write its own bill. I mean, that's the way it works, right? And so they'll pass theirs, we'll pass ours, and then we'll go to conference.
The House passed their bill Thursday without a full report from the Congressional Budget Office. Some on the left, like Senator Tim Kaine, say for starters, they need to see the estimated cost.
They rushed through a bill without knowing how many millions of people it would hurt, without knowing how much it would cost, without a protection for people with pre-existing conditions.
And quite a few Republicans are looking at it with caution.
Part of the problem I have is that the underlying premise of Obamacare was that the federal government would, for the first time, buy insurance for people. That fundamental premise of Obamacare is kept.
Some of the things we're going to have to work on, for example, are the refundable tax credit. We need to make sure that that's sufficient so that low-income people can actually buy a policy.
We will work together carefully to write our own bill. We will make sure we know what our bill costs.
Special budget rules allow the Senate to pass health care with just 51 votes, but Republicans probably need some help from Democrats. Republicans have the majority in the Senate, but it's not as big as the majority they have over in the House. The Senate is in D.C. this week. The House is out on recess, which means they'll most likely hear opinions from people back home. Eric?
All right, Ellison, thanks so much. Laura?
Well, the White House also weighing in on the health care bill, saying President Trump is taking a slow and steady approach.
The president's focused on getting it right, not getting it fast. I think we saw the mistake that the Democrats made by trying to force and rush this through. We expect there to be some changes, but we expect the principles and the main pillars of the health care bill as it exists now to remain the same. I think that we're focused on the big principles of the health care bill, lowering costs, creating a competitive environment, flexibility, giving states the ability to make decisions within the health care system. And we don't expect those things to change.
And we want to talk this through. For more on this, let's bring in Rachel Bade, congressional reporter for Politico. Welcome to you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, so we just heard Sarah Sanders say they expect some changes, right? Many believe, though, that the changes the Senate will be working on with this bill will just be too big to keep everyone on board. So what are some of the changes that you expect from the Senate?
So basically, the House passage was a significant first step for Republicans, but this is far from becoming law, if it ever does. The White House really wants the Senate to pass something quickly, but the reality is that the Senate is already talking about gutting this bill and making it less conservative. Two things I would tell you to watch. The first one being the Obamacare Medicaid expansion for low-income earners. In the House, that phases out in 2020. However, there are a bunch of senators who hail from states that took this Medicaid expansion, and they're worried about what this will do to more vulnerable populations. Think of Rob Portman in Ohio, bunch of others, dozens of others actually. And basically what they're going to want to do is they're going to want to phase this out over a longer period of time. But this is going to be a problem in the House because in the House they wanted to phase it out quicker. Another thing, senators are going to want to beef up tax credits for health care that are going to replace the subsidies that are given by Obamacare. Now, this could also be a problem in the House because there are a bunch of conservatives who don't like the tax credits at all to begin with. They said they were worried it would become a new entitlement program. They called it Obamacare Light. So they're definitely on a collision course at this point.
You know, and as many people have pointed out, the celebratory day we saw in the Rose Garden Thursday was just that. It was a day in the life of this process. There's still obviously a long way to go, maybe months of this, which, you know, we can say probably won't go over well with the president if this delays his legislative agenda, right?
That's absolutely right. Say this actually passes the Senate within a month or something. We're going to have to go back to the House and they're going to have to pass the Senate-passed version. And this is going to create a huge numbers problem in the House where they barely passed their original bill by like one vote this week, right? If you think back, about a month ago, the conservatives, the House Freedom Caucus, they basically tanked the first draft of this bill. They wouldn't vote for it. They said they wouldn't vote for it, so Speaker Paul Ryan had to pull it from the floor. And they said that was because the bill that they were looking at was not conservative enough. Now, the bill coming from the Senate, once they pass it, is going to be even more moderate than the one they tanked in the first place. So they're not going to vote for this. Another problem that we see coming down the pipeline is that the Senate, we're already hearing from sources over there, that they're going to gut a key concession that was given to conservatives in the House, and that is this provision that essentially lets states opt out of Obamacare regulations that require insurance companies to offer various essential health benefits, like benefits for mental health, benefits for maternity, and basically these regulations also require insurance companies, or rather ban insurance companies from charging older people significantly more than younger people and sicker people significantly more than healthier people. Conservatives would say we need these, deregulation provisions because that's ultimately going to bring down premiums. Senators are worried about that. They're worried what this is going to do for, again, vulnerable populations. So I think Trump celebrating in the Rose Garden this week, yes, big first step for Republicans, big victory for the House, but the reality is it could be July, it could be August, September. He's going to start getting very upset when that health care law is still not on his desk.
Right. And, what about the Democratic senators? Where do they fit into all of this? Are Republican senators, any more likely to get help from across the aisle? Should they expect zero Democratic support? Do they even want the support? I'm sure they do, but, where does that lie?
I think the reality is that on health care, Democrats and Republicans are way too far apart to actually come together and work on a bipartisan basis. Sure, tax reform, maybe we could see something like that. Health care, I really don't think it's political reality. And this is just going to cause a bigger problem for Republicans, right? I mean, finding a bill that can actually pass the more moderate-minded Senate, but also get through the conservative House. This is going to take months and months, and this is just going to push Trump's legislative agenda way into the future, and that's going to anger the president. I think that this healthcare debate is going to push at least into the fall, which means we won't see tax reform, we won't see infrastructure package that Trump always talks about until at least later this year, if not earlier next year, and that's campaign season, so that's makes it all even harder. I think that Republicans have a lot of work ahead of them, and it's not going to be pretty.
Certainly a big year ahead and a lot to take in and digest. So I really appreciate you being here today, kind of breaking it all down. Rachel Bade, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Laura, tragedy has hit Penn State University this weekend as prosecutors announced charges in the alleged fraternity hazing death of a 19-year-old student there. We'll have the very latest. Plus, have you heard about the disturbing new developments that are happening on the Korean Peninsula? Yes, there is even more this time. Satellite images show some new artificial islands near the coastline. What intelligence analysts believe Kim Jong-un may be planning there and what we could do to contain that threat.
We're hopeful that the regime in North Korea will think about this and come to a conclusion that there's another way to the future.
Faison doesn't just treat gas, it attacks it. Faison 250 milligram strength with twice the amount of medicine per tablet as Gas X Extra Strength.
It's happening. It's happening.
In the modern world, you can control just about anything with an app.
Your son is turning on all the lights again.
And with the eSurance mobile app, you can do the same thing with your car insurance. Like access your ID card, file a claim, or manage your policy. It's so easy, it's almost scary.
Get out of here!
That's auto and home insurance for the modern world. eSurance, an Allstate company. Click or call.
I love Ebates. I have made $511.34.
I've made close to $2,000. Ebates is a website with thousands of stores that I shop through, and they pay me to shop.
And then I receive a check in the mail just for shopping, which is something I would have done anyway.
There's no hassles, no gimmicks, nothing.
Sign up for Ebates, get cash back. It's awesome.
Sign up for free, shop at your favorite stores, get paid. Join today and get a $10 bonus at ebates.com.
I dropped 40 pounds on Jenny Craig.
Now lose 15 pounds for $15. Jenny Craig helps you lose 3 times more weight than dieting on your own. Enjoy more than 100 ready-to-go premium meals and snacks.
It was the perfect balance of great taste and weight loss.
Call now to get $50 in free food.
When it's time to get serious, it's time for Jenny Craig.
Call now and lose 15 pounds for $15, plus $50 in free food and free shipping. Hurry, this offer won't last long.
We're the volunteers, the engineers, those inspired by the cheers. We're curators preserving the game's greatest achievements, innovators researching the latest advancements. We care about the tees, the greens, and everything in between. And with the R&A, we're modernizing golf's rules. We're the USGA, and we're golfers too. There's a lot to love about golf, and the greatness of the game brings out the best in all of us.
Depression is a tangle of multiple symptoms. That's why there's Trintellix, a prescription medication for depression. Trintellix may help you take a step forward in improving your depression. Tell your healthcare professional right away if your depression worsens or you have unusual changes in mood, behavior, or thoughts of suicide. Antidepressants can increase these in children, teens, and young adults. Do not take with MAOIs. Tell your healthcare professional about your medications, including migraine, psychiatric, and depression medications, to avoid a potentially life-threatening condition. Increased risk of bleeding or bruising may occur, especially if taken with NSAID pain relievers, aspirin, or blood thinners. Manic episodes or vision problems may occur in some people. May cause low sodium levels. The most common side effects were nausea, constipation, and vomiting. Trintellix had no significant impact on weight in clinical trials. Ask your healthcare professional about Trintellix.
Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep.
Introducing the brilliant new Avis app. Book, choose, upgrade, or add a car seat with the tap of a finger.
On the sunny side.
Avis. Get our best rates on avis.com.
Oh, I'm not a security guard. I'm a security monitor.
Why monitor a problem if you don't fix it? LifeLock does more than free credit monitoring to help protect your identity. Join starting at $9.99 a month. Go to lifelock.com.
Well, first it was China, and now we're getting disturbing new reports that North Korea is also building artificial islands, and apparently topping them with what looks like military installations, that according to some new satellite images. Los Angeles Times reporting that this is happening in the Yellow Sea, which is close to North Korea's coastline. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un, well, he's showing open defiance now against the regime's longtime sole sponsor, China, and he's accusing the CIA and South Korean spy agencies of plotting to assassinate him. What does that mean? What do these new islands mean? Retired four-star General Jack Keane joins us, former Army Vice Chief of Staff, Chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and a Fox News military analyst. General, always great to see you. First, I'm a man. This guy, on and on. First nuclear tests, then ballistic missiles. Estimates say he may have like 10 to 16 nuclear bombs. And now these islands. What do you think that they're up to?
Well, it's not as significant as China's islands because China's islands are near our allies and quite removed from China itself. And so they're militarizing those islands to have influence, obviously, over the South China Sea, but even more to have influence over our allies, the Philippines and also Vietnam. But this thing here, it's almost contiguous to North Korea, and it's most likely, I don't know for sure, but it's so close to their ballistic missile testing site. So it's probably an extension of that is what they're doing here. And of course, as you know, they have accelerated this ballistic missile program is really what's got everybody's attention. The good news is a lot of those missiles, at least the recent ones, have been failing. And I think with some accurate speculation on our part, we probably have something to do with that.
Yeah, the president won't talk about that. And of course, I got the Stuxnet virus that kind of tangled in the Iranian nuclear program for a while. But if they have these islands, like similar to the Chinese islands, and these photos apparently show wide streets, which could, you can move a long missile launcher, kind of, and maybe some ballistic missile sites and observation posts. Would this just give Kim Jong-un additional sites to launch
Yeah.
ballistic missiles versus, you know, the mountains which are near the Chinese border.
Yeah, that's probably what this platform really is. I don't think we have at least we don't have hard evidence in public sources. I'm convinced our intelligence service knows exactly what it is. But I don't think it's something we have to fuss about. I mean, they're doing ballistic missile testing, whether they do it on the mainland, they do it on an island, they're going to continue to do it. At least that's their intent. But we have a strategy to squeeze them, as Secretary Tillerson was just talking about. It's political, it's diplomatic, and it's increasingly more economic. And we're putting sanctions on them, and the Chinese have cut off their import of their coal, which is going to hit them financially. We believe the Chinese are also shutting down their oil, but because the oil moves in a pipeline to North Korea, we have no physical evidence of that. We'll see the impact of it economically. And I think one of the things we have to understand with China, if China's doing everything they say they're doing, they could be gaming us a little bit. But they're doing
You think
everything.
they are? I mean, we just shown some video of Xi Jinping walking with the president, and the president says he has a great relationship with him. But then again, North Korea for the first time is kind of lashing back at their longtime sponsor.
Well, that would indicate that they probably are doing what they're saying. And China has to be careful because while they're going to hurt North Korea economically, they don't want to force the collapse of the regime, because keeping the North Korean regime is in China's national interest. And we know that as well.
Let me stop you right there. How do you then keep the regime? And Secretary of State Tillerson has said regime change is not the official policy of the United States. How do you keep the regime and then maybe freeze the nuclear program or prevent it or eliminate it at all, if possible, with this unbelievably militarized nation?
Yeah, well, that's what the objective is all about. Squeeze them politically, economically, and diplomatically, isolate them, to be sure. China obviously has considerably more leverage than all the sanctions we can impose on them. And what the U.S. objectives are, so our audience can understand, is it's not just to stop the missile testing. We truly want to denuclearize them. We want China to take those weapons out of North Korea.
He's never going to allow that. Kim Jong-un is never going to, agree to that. This is his pride and joy. I mean, it's the crown jewel of his whole existence, or these nuclear bombs.
Well, I agree with you, but I'm just telling you, that's the objective of this administration, what they're attempting to do, and they're using China to do it. And here's why they want them denuclearized. I mean, because even though there's no ballistic missile that's going to deliver this thing, you can deliver a small nuclear weapon in a ship container. You can deliver it in an airplane, any place. So that's why they want those nuclear weapons out. And we know for a fact, Eric, that North Korea, they sell ballistic missiles to the Iranians and to others. They will sell nuclear weapons as well and lead to nuclear proliferation in the world itself. So that's why the United States, I believe their objective is the right one, to get these nukes and tally out of there. But as you suggest, this is really tough going here.
Yeah, it really is. And it is a threat and a danger, and only a matter of time, say the experts, until we can have a missile that could potentially hit us. It is, of course, the top of the agenda. General Keane, always good to see you. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, good talking to you, Eric.
Of course. Laura?
Well, Eric, 18 Penn State students and their fraternity now charged in the alleged hazing death of a 19-year-old pledge. Prosecutors say Timothy Piazza suffered fatal injuries after falling down a flight of stairs during a pledge party in February. Leah Gabriel has more from our New York bureau on this. All right, Leah, the first arraignment hearing was yesterday. What did we learn?
You know, Laura, frat members forced the sophomore pledge to run a drinking gauntlet, and after he had fallen multiple times, they commented he looked like he was dead, and yet they waited hours before calling 911. That's according to the grand jury report. Timothy Piazza died from a traumatic brain injury on February 4th. According to the report, it was 2 days earlier at this frat house where Piazza fell down a flight of stairs twice, and he hit his head repeatedly on other falls. Fraternity members tried to cover up what happened that night, but security camera footage told a different story, the real story. They poured liquid on him, slapped him, and put a backpack on him to try to keep him from choking on his own vomit. They even tried to dress him before calling for help. Well, the Beta Theta Pi fraternity and 8 of its members were charged with involuntary manslaughter.
It's heartbreaking all around. There's no winners. We don't win by even charging these young men, because the only win is for him to be alive.
If convicted of these charges, they could face up to 5 years in prison. 10 defendants were arraigned yesterday and they were released on bail. And Laura, the others will be in court next week. They're facing lesser charges, including hazing and aggravated assault.
Such a sad story indeed. The university disbanded the fraternity in late March, saying it had a pattern of hazing. What else are they saying?
You know, that's right, Laura. Well, the university actually disbanded the fraternity in late March because of drug use, excessive drinking, and other things. But the Penn State president said that details of the allegations were heart-wrenching, that they were sickening and incomprehensible. And he said that what caused the death of Timothy Piazza is a national problem.
I think we've had two very powerful messages. Beta will never come back. And two, we have some young men in very serious legal trouble. And I hope that's a profound message to every single student, and not just on this campus, but to every campus that's having a problem with excessive drinking and hazing.
Privately owned and on private property, the only tool, Laura, that the university has is to remove its recognition.
All right, Leah Gabriel, thank you. Great detail in that report. Very informative. Thank you. Eric.
Hello, we have an update now on country music icon Loretta Lynn. She remains at this moment in a hospital after she suffered a stroke. The 85-year-old singer and songwriter, who is considered country music's first lady, was admitted to a Nashville hospital yesterday after she suffered that stroke, they say, at her nearby home in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. According to her website, Miss Lynn is responsive, and she is expected to make a full recovery. That's the great news. But the upcoming scheduled shows, of course, will for now be postponed, and we wish her the very best.
Absolutely. And Eric, the healthcare fight heating up as the GOP-approved bill moves from the House to the Senate. Up next, we'll take politics right out of the equation and look at how the bill could affect your healthcare coverage and your wallet. Plus, vicious crime in Sin City has police on a manhunt for a murderer.
You don't let anything keep you sidelined. That's why you drink Ensure with 9 grams of protein and 26 vitamins and minerals. For the strength and energy to get back to doing what you love. Ensure, always be you.
To find your ideal hotel, just go to Trivago, type in where you want to go, select your check-in and check-out dates, and search. Remember, Trivago shows you all the different prices for the exact same room. Hotel Trivago.
Class actions keep us safe, and ClassAction.com is where one person discovers that a product or company is causing harm and finds out they're not alone. One product may cause injuries to thousands, and one dishonest company may be stealing a little from one person, but millions from us all. Visit ClassAction.com to view a list of active class actions or to report one. ClassAction.com. Information, protection, justice.
Yes, 9 o'clock works for me. Bye. Another referral. Our customers love us.
Hello, the Hartford.
Hi. I'm at a customer's home and we broke into something very expensive. Am I covered?
Yes. Don't worry. You chose the right small business insurance.
When the unexpected strikes, the Hartford strikes back. It's why over 1 million small businesses and their agents trust the Hartford.
It's okay.
I thought I married an Italian.
My lineage was the Vecchios and Zuccolis. Through Ancestry, through the DNA, I found out that I was only 16% Italian.
It was 34% Eastern European. So I went on to Ancestry. Soon learned that one of our ancestors we thought was Italian was Eastern European.
This is my ancestor I didn't know about. He looks a little bit like me, yes.
Ancestry has many paths to discovering your story. Get started for free at Ancestry.com.
It's Empire Today's biggest sale, the 50-50-50 sale. 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation. That's right, half off your entire project. You can save thousands. Empire's 50-50-50 sale won't last long. Don't miss 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today,
I'm Chris, and I lost 120 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Listen up, guys. Want to shed a few pounds? Got a beer belly going on? Can't fit into your pants? Then you need Nutrisystem for men.
I'm Essex, and I lost 43 pounds on Nutrisystem.
I'm Trevor, and I lost 60 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guarantee. Real guys, real results.
I'm Michael, and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Put down the pie, pick up the phone, and get with the program today. Get 1 week of all new Nutri-Crush bars free and 1 week of Turbo Shakes free.
The food was delicious.
If you're like me and you like to eat, this is what you get to do.
This is perfect for men, especially guys who don't want to cook.
So get off the couch, call or go online in the next 2 minutes, and we'll even throw in FedEx shipping. Free! Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches in your first month.
It's not that hard. You eat the food, you lose the weight.
Go online or call 888-605-SIZE to get Nutrisystem for Men with bars and shakes free.
At Scotty Best, we make great-looking clothing with tons of hidden pockets and unique features. Now you can carry all your stuff hands-free while looking great. Scotty Best will change your life. Use promo code SCOTT to save 20% off your first order.
My arthritis pain used to make my favorite things to do painful, but now with odor-free Blue Emu Maximum Arthritis Cream, I can enjoy life's big moments and life's little ones. Blue Emu Maximum Arthritis Cream. Beat the pain and enjoy life.
Well, some of those Nigerian girls who were kidnapped by Boko Haram 3 years ago, remember that? Well, they have been released, according to a Reuters report. As many as 82 of the girls have been kidnapped from the town of Chibok in the northern Nigeria. They were released, we're told, through negotiations with the Nigerian government. You may remember more than 200 girls were kidnapped by Boko Haram in 2014. That prompted then First Lady Michelle Obama to create that hashtag, Bring Back Our Girls. Well, since then, some of them were released, others were able to escape their captors, but many, sadly, are still in the hands of that Islamic terrorist group. Laura?
And Eric, as the GOP health care bill winds its way through the legislative process, and it's a long one, many Americans are just wondering what it may mean for their medical coverage. Our next guest can answer some of those pressing questions for us. And joining us now is Dr. Nina Radcliffe, an anesthesiologist and MD in private practice. So glad you're here because so many people want to know exactly that, how it's going to affect them, the everyday American, the headline. What does this mean for my family? You know, people want to know if they're going to be able to get the coverage that they need, if they're going to be able to afford it. So can we answer any of that right now in this process?
Yeah, well, first of all, we are in a process. There's nothing that's affecting us today, and it's going to be a long road. What happened on Thursday is the first step. Now we know it's going to go to the Senate, and there's many that have indicated there's going to be some major changes. Some have said they're going to completely rewrite it, but this is what I'm glad about. There's going to be discussion because we are all patients. This affects every single one of us. There's hardly an American who this will not affect, so we need to be able to speak up, talk to our representatives to let them know what we need.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about some of these pre-existing conditions because we've heard a lot of them and they look really scary when you see them on the screen when we're all watching our news coverage. The list is troubling. How does it impact those with some of the pre-existing conditions on the list? Is it really going to be as dramatic as it seems right now?
Well, first of all, a pre-existing condition as it stands is a health problem that you have prior to the date of enrollment for a new coverage. Now, this is a vague term. Every insurance company has a different list for themselves. So it depends. Some of the things that have been listed are cancer and diabetes, common conditions that affect Americans. Now, this is where we stand. If this health care bill passes as is, which it is unlikely, the next step would be that the state has to ask for a waiver to no longer cover these conditions or to be able to charge more. So right now, they are not allowed to deny coverage. You cannot discriminate and deny coverage, but they can charge more. So we're going to have to go state by state before this can even happen. And if it does happen, there has to be accountability. They're going to have to create a high-risk pool to be able to subsidize some of this. So this is not going to be you're going to be dropped or you're not going to be able to afford to do it. There's many steps along the way, and there's a lot of these states that are going to say we want to keep this in place.
What about Medicaid? What about maternity leave? Things like that a lot of us worry about.
Right. Well, one of the things with the Affordable Care Act is that they expanded Medicaid. It used to be a federal program just for the poor and disabled, but now what they're doing is they are allowing non-disabled adults to be able to enroll. 11 million people were enrolled during after this happened. This is the issue. They're going to try to change it from an entitlement program where the federal government covers everything to either a block grant program or per person. So that's what we're looking at. So that's going to occur in 2020 if this bill passes as is.
My family and friends, we always talk about how it's good to go to your doctor armed with a list of questions so you don't forget anything. You've got your list down. You want to make sure that you make the most of, maybe those 15 minutes you get with your doctor. So now that we're looking at this down the road, what should we be asking our doctor when we go in for our next visit about what our coverage looks like in the future?
Right, and I don't think that they can answer at this time because, like we said, this is the first step in a long process. What the Senate comes up with, we're not really sure at this time. Your doctor may not know, but right now we just want to focus on taking care of the patient. You will not be dropped today. This is not of concern at this moment.
And one last question about adult children still on their parents' plan. Is that still going to ride?
Correct. If you're 26 and under, you can stay on your parents' program. That's one thing that they did not they did not take away.
Okay, so when you look at this overall, you're an MD. You've probably had patients already come to you and ask you questions, maybe that we don't have down on our list. But what are your patients saying? What are people in the practice saying?
Well, this is what it is. This program as is not sustainable. We want to make sure that 30 years down the road, we are able to provide quality care to all of America. We want to stay healthy as a nation. So we need to take in all the parties, the insurers, the patients, the providers, and see what they need and come up with a plan that works for everybody. We cannot have spiraling costs that prevent you from being able to afford, or doctors not taking the insurance that you have it. So you just have insurance, but it doesn't mean anything.
Sure, but
so we have to have discussion. Yes, we are in process. We want to have a better system because that's what we are as Americans.
But do you find that people are worried? Are they scared? Because I see and hear from a lot of scared people, even if you go on social media, people are very worried. Is that what you're hearing in your practice?
We do, and what I remind my patients and anybody, all the viewers watching, is we need to sift, we need to distill the rhetoric, the apocalyptic stuff. We need to see what's fact and reality. It's easy to have our emotions pulled. There's a child, your child's going to get kicked out of the hospital and not get the surgery that they need. That's not a fact. That's not going to happen. We have to make sure that we look at the facts. We need to be able to think through this rationally and look at what the bill really says, and that's not what it's saying. And of course, it's easy when you reread something. It says that you won't get insurance if you had post-traumatic stress from a domestic violence. That's something concerning, but we have to make sure we understand what it says. That's not necessarily the fact.
Well, I think maybe a Reader's Digest version would be good for everybody, because you say sift through the information, and a lot of us want to. A lot of people don't have time or the, fortitude to go through this entire bill to understand, to read it and then digest what it means. So that's why it's good to have you here. So thank you so much. We look forward to getting more of your perspective as we go down what is probably going to be a long road with this.
Thank you, Laura.
Dr. Nina Radcliffe, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Laura and Dr. Nina. Well, a Bachelor Weekend celebration has turned tragic. A father of 5, he was murdered by a sucker punch on the streets of Las Vegas. A heartbroken family now left searching for answers.
We had such a good time. I cherished every moment, and I know he did. And
Mr. Wiseman?
You wish to know how to protect your sterling credit score.
My credit's off to a good start, but knowing so many things can go wrong with it kind of freaks me out.
Well, unfreak yourself out and download the free CreditWise app from Capital One. CreditWise gives you a credit score and alerts you to changes.
Even if I'm not a Capital One customer?
No! Yeah, it's free for everyone.
Thank you.
Gravity is a fickle mistress. What's in your wallet?
Introducing new Parodontax, the toothpaste that helps prevent bleeding gums. If you spit blood when you brush or floss, you may have gum problems and could be on the journey to much worse. Help stop the journey of gum disease. Try new Parodontax toothpaste.
For 4 days only at Joseph A. Bank, save up to 60% on almost everything. With all 1905 suits just $249, dress pants just $99, and all dress shirts and sports shirts 2 for $89. Only at Joseph A. Bank.
It's Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale. It's the perfect time to find your perfect mattress. Save up to $1,000 on brands like Beautyrest, Serta, and more. Beautyrest queen sets as low as $499.99. Only during Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale.
New bike?
Yeah, because I got
Allstate. If you total your new bike, they replace it with a brand new one.
That's cool. I got a new helmet.
We know, Steve. It's good to be in good hands.
The free speech double standard. Liberals resorting to riots to silence the right. Now, Jesse exposes the left's hypocrisy on a must-see Watters World tonight.
Spring is on, and it's time to get growing. As America's #1 professional lawn care company, True Green can tailor a plan that turns your ordinary lawn into an extraordinary one. So start your True Green lawn plan today for only $29.95.
Life's too great to be stuck with stomach issues. Get back to living. Kaopectate Multi-Symptom Relief treats more than diarrhea. It quickly relieves 7 different types of stomach problems, so nothing can hold you back. Kaopectate. Get back to life.
Celebrate the arts in Ohio at the 2017 Arts Day and Governor's Awards for the Arts Luncheon on Wednesday, May 17th. Individuals, organizations, and businesses will be honored for their outstanding contributions to the arts in Ohio. Individual tickets are available online at oac.ohio.gov/Governor's Awards. For table sponsorships, contact Ohio Citizens for the Arts Foundation at 614-221-4064.
You always pay your insurance on time. Tap one little bumper and up go your rates. What good is having insurance if you get punished for using it? Newsflash, nobody's perfect.
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise your rates due to your first accident. Switch and you could save $509 on auto insurance. Call 1-888-652-3144 for a free quote today. Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Reach. It's at the core of everything you've done your entire life. You reached out for a hand to hold. A heart just like yours. And when you worked hard and reached the top, you learned that the sky's the limit. We're reaching too. Spectrum Reach has a talented and dedicated team who listens to your needs and works hard to reach customized solutions that fit your marketing goals. Because business never stops, and neither do you. Spectrum Reach. Never stop reaching.
Well, a heartbreaking family is searching for some answers and suspects at this hour after a father of 5 died after a seemingly random attack. The suspects, as you can see on this surveillance video, were walking on the street and allegedly sucker-punched Louis Campos on the streets of Las Vegas. Mr. Campos was knocked out in that attack, and sadly, he succumbed to his injuries. Jonathan Hunt is live in our West Coast Bureau with more on this terrible tragedy. Hi, Jonathan.
Afternoon, Eric. Louis Campos was looking forward to his brother's wedding. He was going to be the best man. Now that brother is instead planning Louis' funeral. Louis Campos, who was 45 and had 5 children, died in the hospital Thursday, watched over by his wife 4 days after being sucker-punched as he waited in line outside a Vegas nightclub.
To see his wife laying over his body just broke my heart. His kids, it's the worst. When he was born, it was the happiest time of my life. And now, this same child is the saddest thing in my life.
The 2 men who apparently randomly attacked Campos were seen on security camera video moments after one of them threw the fatal punch. Vegas police don't have much of a description. They say both men are Hispanic, in their 20s, one wearing a white cap, dark shirt and white pants, the other in a dark shirt and tan pants.
In the video, they're clearly walking down the street and gloating about it, and the guy looks like he's so proud of himself, you know? And it's just sickening to me.
That guy murdered my son. He was a husband, a father to 5 kids. And he was my best friend.
The Campos brothers, 4 of them in all, had arranged a rare get-together in Vegas to celebrate Adam Campos' upcoming wedding. The brothers say Louis was loving every minute of the trip, and they loved every minute they spent with him. Now they just want to see justice for the man who took their brother's life. Eric?
Just so senseless. Jonathan, thank you. Laura?
And hackers interfering with yet another presidential election. Just a day before French voters go to the polls, a massive data leak is undermining one candidate's campaign. And new details on Michael Flynn's relationship with Russia and what the Trump team knew about their national security advisor before he was fired. All that coming up.
That's life. That's what people say. You're riding high in April and shot down in May.
That's life. You diet, you exercise. And if you still need help lowering your blood sugar, this is Jardiance. Along with diet and exercise, Jardiance lowers blood sugar and A1C in adults with type 2 diabetes. Jardiance is also the only type 2 diabetes treatment with heart, proven to reduce the risk of cardiovascular death in adults with type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration. This may cause you to feel dizzy, faint, or lightheaded, or weak upon standing. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, and trouble breathing. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of ketoacidosis or an allergic reaction. Symptoms of an allergic reaction include rash, swelling, and difficulty breathing or swallowing. Do not take Jardiance if you are on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Other side effects are sudden kidney problems, genital yeast infections, increased bad cholesterol, and urinary tract infections, which may be serious. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you have any medical conditions. So talk to your doctor about Jardiance, the one and only type 2 diabetes treatment with heart. Visit Jardiance.com for a free consultation with a certified diabetes educator if you qualify.
Gentlemen, Beggin' Skinny Strips or Beggin' Black Label.
This too?
Now this is the delicious dilemma. Introducing new Beggin' Strips Premium Edition. With real meat as ingredient one. Everything to your liking. New Beggin' Strips Premium.
Because Beggin'!
Your weekend, your shows.
I just have to give the people what they want.
With a little attitude.
That looks like a blast.
And a lot of information.
The choice is a no-brainer.
Your most watched and most trusted weekend voices every Saturday on the Fox News Channel.
Call 1-800-SANDALS.
Would you like to be a Publishers Clearinghouse winner next month?
Wow.
Get ready, because now you could win $2 million immediately, plus $10,000 a month for life, and a new car. It's the new Win It All prize, and it could be yours. $2 million, plus $10,000 a month for lifelong financial security, and a new car.
Oh my goodness!
Watch your mail or go to PCH.com right now and enter. Don't miss out. June 30th, you could win it all.
Whoa, this thing is crazy. I just had to push one button to join.
It's like I'm in the office with you, even though I'm here.
It's almost like the virtual reality of business communications.
No, it's reality.
Intuitive one-touch video conferencing is a reality, and now it's included at no additional cost with Vonage Business. See why 3,000 companies a month are switching to Vonage. Business grade, people friendly.
Hello, I'm Laura Ingle in for Arthel Neville. Welcome to a brand new hour inside America's election headquarters.
Hi, Laura.
Headquarters.
Good to see you. Have you along with us today. Hello, everyone, and good evening. I'm Eric Shawn. Top in the news this hour, there are those new claims of election meddling. This time, allegedly happening to America's oldest ally, that election in France. We'll have the information released in that apparent hack attack targeting Emmanuel Macron, the man you see there on the left.
Also, early warning ignored, what a new report is revealing about advice given to Michael Flynn before the fallout over his ties to Russia.
And a police officer arrested for the murder in the deadly shooting of an unarmed teenager, while investigators say the charge is justified.
But we begin with healthcare battle as the fight to repeal and replace Obamacare now heads to the Senate. President Trump and House Republicans celebrating this week after the GOP-backed bill narrowly passed one chamber of Congress. But its fate is in the Senate. It's far from certain, with some lawmakers already talking about a rewrite. Brian Yennis is live near Bedminster, New Jersey. That is where President Trump is spending the weekend. Hi, Brian. All right, so how far is the president willing to compromise on this health care bill? What do we know?
Hi, Laura. Well, look, the White House says the president is willing to be flexible when it comes to a final health care bill, as long as it really contains three things. That is, guaranteeing lower costs for all Americans, a competitive marketplace for insurers, and finally, flexibility for states that can decide what they do or do not want for their residents. But on top of that, look, this is going to be a long, arduous process with this bill. It goes to the Senate Republicans. A number of them have come out and said that they will not vote for this and will come up with their own bill entirely. They'll have to conference and then compromise with the House. But ultimately, the White House says the president and they are willing to trust the legislative process.
Never underestimate this president. I think he's shown time and time again when he's committed to something, it's going to get done. We expect there to be some changes, but we expect the principles and the main pillars of the health care bill as it exists now to remain the same.
Of course, from the president's point of view, this was a major legislative victory following up on a Republican promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. The president likes that the bill will eliminate Obamacare taxes and regulations, and that refundable tax credits and expanded health savings accounts will give consumers choice and flexibility in buying coverage. He voiced his frustration, though, that people are criticizing a bill he says is already better than Obamacare. Tweeting yesterday, "Why is it that fake news rarely reports Ocare is on its last legs and that insurance companies are fleeing for their lives? It's dead." Of course, critics are pointing to the fact that they're worried about pre-existing conditions and whether people with those conditions are going to have to pay more, as well as Medicaid cuts, which could end up leaving millions without health care coverage.
All right,
Laura?
Brian, any word on how involved the president will get in pushing this bill through? Do we know that so far?
The White House says he's going to be very hands-on, as he has been. Remember, when this first House bill was defeated 2 months ago, he reportedly took it very personally, and this round he decided to make a lot of personal calls to make sure that it passed this time around, and we can expect, according to former Trump advisor Corey Lewandowski, the same thing from him.
He's going to be working the phones. He's going to be meeting with individuals, I'm sure, in the U.S. Senate to get a piece of legislation done. If he's required to go out and campaign and get on the stump like he did in Harrisburg last weekend to push his bill forward to make sure we can get repeal and replace done, he's willing to do that. And he has a great microphone to bypass the mainstream media, the fake news. He can go directly to the American people and put pressure on those U.S. senators who aren't willing to hold to their promise to get repeal and replace done.
As far as a timetable, the White House isn't willing to give a timetable or a deadline for when they expect this final health care bill, hopefully, to be passed and made into law. But knowing what we know about the president, sooner rather than later will be better. Apparently also because, remember, he wants to pass tax reform, and he says that he wants health care before he gets to that. Laura?
All right, Brian Yanes. So to be clear, that's not protesters we hear in the background, right?
No, those are kids playing basketball.
All right, very good. Brian Yanes, enjoy your time in New Jersey. Thank you.
Life can go on as normal on the weekend, even near a presidential retreat. Meanwhile, in Washington, what will happen when this bill hits the Senate? Well, it may have narrowly passed the House, but will now likely face some major changes in the upper chamber, we're told, from dropping some of the regulations to what some experts predict, a potential complete rewrite. Ellison Barber now in Washington with more on the bill's fate.
Supporters of the bill in the House celebrated its passage in a big way at the Rose Garden with the president. But that is just the first step. In the Senate, the debate is only beginning.
Well, the Senate will write its own bill. I mean, that's the way it works, right? And so they'll pass theirs, we'll pass ours, and then we'll go to conference.
The House passed their bill Thursday without a full report from the Congressional Budget Office. Some on the left, like Senator Tim Kaine, say for starters, they need to see the estimated cost.
They rushed through a bill without knowing how many millions of people it would hurt, without knowing how much it would cost, without a protection for people with pre-existing conditions.
And quite a few Republicans are looking at it with caution.
Part of the problem I have is that the underlying premise of Obamacare was that the federal government would, for the first time, buy insurance for people. That fundamental premise of Obamacare is kept.
Some of the things we're going to have to work on, for example, are the refundable tax credit. We need to make sure that that's sufficient so that low-income people can actually buy a policy.
We will work together carefully to write our own bill. We will make sure we know what our bill costs.
Special budget rules allow the Senate to pass health care with just 51 votes, but Republicans probably need some help from Democrats. Republicans have the majority in the Senate, but it's not as big as the majority they have over in the House. The Senate is in D.C. this week. The House is out on recess, which means they'll most likely hear opinions from people back home. Eric?
All right, Allison, thanks so much. Laura?
All right, a white Texas police officer now charged with the murder of an unarmed black teenager. Former officer Roy Oliver shot at a car full of teenagers leaving the scene of a party near Dallas last weekend, killing 15-year-old Jordan Edwards. Now, Oliver has claimed self-defense, but prosecutors say the evidence shows Oliver meant to do bodily harm. Will Carr live from Dallas with this one and has more. Will, is Oliver still behind bars at this point?
Well, Laurie turned himself in last night and quickly posted a $300,000 bond. Now, Oliver was a 6-year veteran of the Balch Springs Police Department. He was also an Army vet. He's now accused of shooting Jordan Edwards in the head. The 15-year-old was a high school athlete who wanted to play college football. He was also a good student. He had straight A's. This all happened last Saturday night. Oliver and another officer responded to a house party. They say they thought they heard gunshots in the area, then saw a car filled with 5 black teenagers leaving the property. Initially, the police chief said that the car was aggressively driving in reverse towards the officers, and that's why Oliver fired. But video from their body cameras told a different story. Turns out the car was driving away from the officers when Oliver pulled the trigger. That resulted in his termination Tuesday and then the murder charge last night. Take a listen to the family attorney.
I honestly began to cry because I just did not believe that things could actually work the way that they're supposed to work. And so it was a very emotional moment for me.
Edwards was laid to rest earlier today. His family asked for no protest until after the funeral. Laura.
And of course, we know he's not the only officer in the headlines this week. Tell us more.
That's right. Earlier this week on Tuesday, a former South Carolina police officer pled guilty after he shot an unarmed black man in the back during a traffic stop. Then on Wednesday, the Department of Justice declined to charge 2 officers in the death of Alton Sterling last year in Baton Rouge. You'll remember that was caught on camera and sparked national outrage. Earlier today, the new Black Panther Party actually had a rally outside of the Baton Rouge Police Department. That protest today was peaceful. Laura.
All right, Will Carr for us in our Dallas Bureau today. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Eric.
Well, Laura, I know we've learned a lot about and heard a lot about the dangers of hazing, and now there's a latest case. 18 Penn State fraternity brothers have been charged with manslaughter in the alleged hazing death of a 19-year-old pledge. Prosecutors say Tim Piazza fell down a flight of stairs after consuming toxic levels of alcohol at a pledge party in February. And they say that members of his fraternity, well, they failed to call for help in time to save his life. Leah Gabriel has more on this tragic case from our New York City newsroom. Leah, so what are those details?
You know, well, Eric, the fraternity brothers pretended that they did not know how bad off Timothy Piazza was. That's according to the grand jury report. But it says that searches of their cell phones and reported discussions among them made it clear they knew his injuries were much worse than just intoxication. Prosecutors say these fraternity members tried to cover up what happened, but security camera footage told the story. After they carried Piazza back up the stairs he fell down, they slapped him, poured liquid on him, even loaded up a backpack with books and put it on him to try to keep him from suffocating on his vomit. It happened at the Beta Theta Pi frat house in a pledge ceremony on February 2nd. Tim Piazza died 2 days later from a traumatic brain injury. The report concludes, quote, over 40 minutes elapsed before they even summoned an ambulance when they discovered Tim looking deathly ill the following morning, and a campaign ensued in the following days to destroy any evidence that would reveal exactly what had been happening behind the doors of Beta Theta Pi. Well, 10 of the defendants were arraigned yesterday. The other defendants will be in court next week. Those charged with involuntary manslaughter, Eric, they could face up to 5 years in prison.
You know, this is so serious when this happens and so sad. What's the university saying about it, Leah?
Well, the university president called the details of the allegations sickening and incomprehensible and says that the cause of Tim Piazza's death is a national problem with fraternities. Piazza's dad says that his son died because of disregard for moral values.
In honor of our son, and are committed to doing everything that we can
to assure that no other parents will have to go through the pain and grief we are currently experiencing.
And as for the university, it disbanded the fraternity in late March, saying that it had a pattern of hazing, drug use, and excessive drinking. Eric?
You know, Leah, parents have always said to the kids, that's great advice. If there's a problem, call 911, call a parent, don't try to hide it, because then you can have a horrible situation. It's so much better to get help, as we know.
Indeed. And one of the students in this case evidently tried to say something. Other students told him not to. They pushed him against a wall. The lesson you just mentioned is true. Stand up and say something. Call 911.
Absolutely. Leah, thank you.
All right, Eric, thanks. We're learning new details about former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and his contact with a Russian ambassador. So coming up, the reported warning that might have saved Flynn his job. Plus, the polls in France only hours away from opening, but a cyber attack on presidential frontrunner Emmanuel Macron is causing concern about whether it could impact the election results.
None of this is free now. We don't have private communications anymore. I think this is a terrible thing. I think I would have said the same about, Marine Le Pen. It's not a question of who we might favor or not, but it just shouldn't be.
Mrs. Andrews, I found the perfect stone for your ring. Come in this afternoon. No. No.
Hello, the Hartford.
Yes, hello. I need to file a property claim.
Don't worry. You chose the right small business insurance.
When the unexpected strikes, the Hartford strikes back. It's why over 1 million small businesses and their agents trust the Hartford.
Thank you.
Dr. Kelsey McNeely, and someday you might be calling me an energy farmer. Energy lives here.
Did you know 2 areas of your brain can make it hard to lose weight? Contrave is an FDA-approved weight loss medicine that may help adults who are overweight or struggle with obesity lose weight and keep it off. Contrave is believed to work on 2 areas of the brain, your hunger center.
I'm so hungry.
To reduce hunger and your reward system.
Ice cream. French fries.
To help control cravings. Across 3 long-term studies, Contrave patients lost approximately 2 to 4 times more weight than with diet and exercise alone. Contrave is not for everyone. One ingredient in Contrave may increase suicidal thoughts or actions in some children, teens, and young adults within the first few months. Other serious side effects include seizures, increase in blood pressure or heart rate, liver damage, manic episodes, glaucoma, and allergic reactions. Do not take with opioids. Reduce hunger, help control cravings. Contrave, the #1 prescribed weight loss brand. Go to Contrave.com.
You were made to move. To progress. To not just accept what you see, but imagine something new. At Invisalign, we use the most advanced teeth straightening technology to help you find the next amazing version of yourself. It's time to unleash your secret weapon. It's there, right under your nose. Get to your best smile up to 50% faster. Visit Invisalign.com to get started today.
A blow to Obamacare. Inside the GOP's healthcare win and the Senate fight ahead. Rinks Priebus breaks down the bill only on Fox News Sunday.
Really? I'm just a regular guy. Kidding. I'm spectacular.
Actor John Stamos is spectacular, and so is Spectrum. But you already know how spectacular Spectrum TV is. Now see just how amazing Spectrum can be when you add internet and voice.
Voiceover. Perk of being me. Another perk, when I'm done watching my shows, Spectrum Internet makes it easy to stay connected to social me, viral me, and streaming me.
Get 60 megabits Spectrum Internet with no data caps and a free modem. Add it now for just $29.99 a month.
Spectrum Voice makes it easy for me to catch up with all my fans all over the world.
Enjoy unlimited nationwide calling and unlimited calling to Canada, Mexico, and more.
Oh, look, there's one now. This is John Stamos. Oh, hi, Grammy. I'm shooting the commercial now.
Add Spectrum Internet for just $29.99 a month and Spectrum Voice for just $19.99 a month with our 30-day money-back guarantee and no contracts. Call 844-565-1999.
That's my voiceover guy. I don't know if he's handsome.
And there's new information now on former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and his talks with the Russian ambassador. The Washington Post reporting Flynn was cautioned by the Trump transition team to not talk with Russian officials. That warning made weeks ahead of the call that ultimately cost Flynn his job. Garrett Tenney, live in Washington with the details on this one. Hi, Garrett.
Well, and Laura, several senior transition officials were also concerned that General Flynn wasn't taking those warnings seriously. According to the Associated Press, those officials believed that Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak was almost certainly under surveillance by the FBI and the CIA because of his ties to Russia's intelligence agencies. One of the officials, Marshall Billingsley, who was heading the transition's National Security Council efforts, was so concerned that Flynn didn't understand the risk that he asked the Obama White House for a copy of the CIA's classified profile on Russia's ambassador and then gave it to Flynn to look through before going through with the meeting. Current and former government officials told the AP it's not clear if Flynn ever looked through those documents, but ultimately he and Kislyak did meet and had a series of conversations. We know at least one of those conversations was picked up by U.S. intelligence agencies and included discussions of sanctions against Russia, which Flynn later lied to the vice president about and was eventually forced to resign over. Even before then, though, Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates had her own concerns about Flynn's contact with the Russian ambassador and warned the White House that his lying about it could make him vulnerable to blackmail by Russia. Yates was later fired for refusing to defend the president's initial executive order on immigration and has reportedly been looking forward to testifying about General Flynn's connections to Russia ever since, and her chance will come on Monday when both she and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper will testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Laura?
All right, Garrett Tenney for us. Thank you so much. Eric?
To Russia, is it fair to say that the government of Russia actively provides safe haven to cyber criminals?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that the Russian government is still involved in American politics?
Yes.
Well, that's just a small sample of FBI Director James Comey's stunning testimony on Capitol Hill this week. You know, Comey and Senator Lindsey Graham, they kept their renewed focus on Russia and its interference in our presidential election. And with the new allegations that Moscow has also infiltrated the presidential election in France by allegedly hacking the campaign of moderate Emmanuel Macron, experts say Vladimir Putin's aim simply is to undermine Western democracies.
We found no indication of any change in vote tallies. There was efforts aimed at voter registration systems, but I suppose in theory, hard in the United States, the beauty of our system is it's a bit of a hairball, and all different kinds of systems and you know, elderly.
Have they done this in other countries where they actually tampered with the vote?
My understanding is they have attempted in other countries.
And there's no reason they don't want it attempted here if we don't stop them over time.
I think that's fair.
And as we just said, we will hear more on Monday when the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hears from Sally Yates. Yates, of course, warned about Moscow's reach into the election and possible influence with Michael Flynn. So what will she say? Molly Hooper joins us, Capitol Hill reporter at The Hill and a Fox News alumnus. Molly, good to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
Let me first start with Sally Yates. What do you think she will testify to that she specifically told White House counsel Don McGahn that she thought Flynn was lying?
Well, I think it goes beyond the fact that she thought he was lying. I think that they had evidence that he had misled the vice president because, as you recall, Kislyak was under surveillance. So any phone calls to Kislyak, between Kislyak and any officials, would be recorded. So she had evidence, apparently, that you know, when Michael Flynn said, "No, I did not discuss sanctions with the ambassador," that was just not true. And so she went to the White House and said, "Hey, listen, you better do something." I don't know if she said, "You better do something," but she said, "This is out there. Flynn misled Vice President Pence, who went out and told America that Flynn did not have these conversations on sanctions." And so you put the White House in a very precarious position. And Sally Yates said, open to blackmail.
And it took what, 3 weeks before actually Flynn got the boot?
Well, it did, and it didn't happen until reports came out in the Washington Post that this conversation and the content of the conversation about the sanctions was in fact discussed between Flynn and Kislyak. And then Mike Pence found out he was misled and basically was the reason why Flynn was fired. And it was because he lied to Mike Pence, not necessarily because he had that conversation with Kislyak, but because he lied to the vice president.
Now, why do you think her testimony and even her appearance, they're going to make a big deal out of it. Why do you think it's so significant? She was up at Colby College up in Maine this past week, and she was asked about it, but she, on that subject, would not comment. She was talking about criminal justice reform. So, you know, what type of coverage do we expect, and what type of nugget do you think we should listen to when she testifies on Monday?
Well, the thing is that keep in mind the House is out of session this week. You know, everybody's sort of on healthcare redux. The Senate is doing their healthcare behind the scene, and you have this blockbuster hearing with Sally Yates, who was supposed to appear before the House Intelligence Committee months ago, well, actually in mid-March, but due to a kerfuffle over, you know, in the House Intel Committee between the then chairman of that panel, well, the current chairman, but who was heading up the Russian inquiry, Devin Nunes, and his, you know, interactions with the White House, she did not ultimately come up. But, you know, they were expected to hear again that she told the White House that, you know, Flynn could be compromised and that he did not do anything. And even though this would, and especially this wouldn't look very good because here you have, you know, all these stories, whether they're true or not, coming out that there was in fact some collusion with Russia and the then Trump campaign. The fact that the White House did not take action at the time that they found out that Flynn misled the vice president, you know, and waited something like 18 days. You know, she will be pressed on that. How hard did she tell, you know, how vigorously did she warn the White House? Did she keep talking about it? And keep in mind, after Flynn was fired, Sally Yates was essentially fired 10 days later because she said that she would not uphold the president's, you know, ban on, you know, travel ban. So it's unrelated to Russia,
yes.
but it's interesting, and it's something that I think people on the panel, like Ted Cruz, will press her on, even though it's a little off topic.
And at the same time, though, finally, in the broad picture, look, the investigators and intelligence agencies have said there's no evidence of collusion. Dianne Feinstein came out the other day, member of the committee from one of the hearings and meetings, and said there's no evidence of any collusion. And the Russians could have been trying, but so far there's no evidence that it actually worked, and they actually cooperated, and those involved, like Carter Page and Manafort and Roger Stone, deny any wrongdoing. So what would she say? I mean, can she say? She won't be able to say that there's collusion if she testifies, will she? Or will she?
I can't see how she would. The one thing that is interesting is something that James Comey mentioned at his hearing, at that extraordinary hearing last week, when he was just so passionate about his decision to announce, you know, that Hillary Clinton, they were reopening this investigation. But it was interesting that he did note Sally Yates had a conversation with him about Flynn's interactions with Russia. And keep in mind that Flynn is also under investigation because, you know, from the Pentagon, because he broke, you know, certain Pentagon rules about taking money. He was over in Russia.
And now reporting that and allegedly that sort of thing.
Exactly, but that's not the same thing as collusion.
Yeah.
And so, especially when it comes to the current administration. So it'll be interesting to see what she has to say. And what I think that might be also something to pay attention to is senators like Mike Lee, if they get into this whole idea of wiretapping, that the Obama administration, the then Obama administration, unmasked certain names, you know, of individuals in the Trump campaign at the time who had conversations with people.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a feeling that these Republicans, they will press her on that, and it's something that she'll need to answer for.
Yep, she'll likely be on the hot seat for that because she was in the Obama administration. But so far, James Clapper also testifying. He has said there's no evidence of collusion, so we'll likely hear more about that. But it will be a fascinating Monday. Molly?
It will be so fascinating.
Good to see you again, as always. Thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Of course. Laura?
And potentially damaging leaks for one French presidential candidate, emerging less than 48 hours before the French go to the polls. Who's being blamed, and could it affect the outcome of the election? Plus, the death toll rising in one South American country amid a major clash between government and its citizens.
It was May when Dad forgot how to brush his teeth.
In March, my husband didn't recognize our grandson.
That's when moderate Alzheimer's made me a caregiver. If their Alzheimer's is getting worse, ask about once-a-day Nemzeric. Nemzeric is approved for moderate to severe Alzheimer's disease in patients who are taking donepezil. It may improve cognition and overall function and may slow the worsening of symptoms for a while. Nemzeric does not change the underlying disease progression. Don't take if allergic to memantine, donepezil, piperidine, or any of the ingredients in Nemzeric. Tell the doctor about any conditions including heart, lung, bladder, kidney or liver problems, seizures, stomach ulcers, or procedures with anesthesia. Serious side effects may occur, including muscle problems if given anesthesia, slow heartbeat, fainting, more stomach acid, which may lead to ulcers and bleeding, nausea, vomiting, difficulty urinating, seizures, and worsening of lung problems. Most common side effects are headache, diarrhea, dizziness, loss of appetite, and bruising. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I'm doing what I can. Ask about Nemzeric today.
The following ad is being condensed for your viewing convenience.
I finally switched to Geico.
Oh, yeah?
Ended up saving a ton of money on car insurance.
I hear they have a really great mobile app.
The interface is remarkably intuitive.
That's so important.
More quality inclusions than any other resorts on the planet. Save up to 65%. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
It's Empire Today's biggest sale, the 50-50-50 sale. 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation. That's right, half off your entire project. You can save thousands. Empire's 50-50-50 sale won't last long. Don't miss 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today. Responsive performance. Safety-minded. Best-in-class cargo space. Ready for the road. This is the high-performing Acura RDX. And this is how we make it.
Visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on the RDX.
As a working mom, I'm thankful my mom is able to help out. So I bought her the all-new Jitterbug Flip from Great Call. It's so easy to use, and with a larger screen and bigger buttons, it's even easier to dial. There's also a 5-star button on the keypad.
One touch and you'll be immediately connected to a highly trained agent who can confirm your location, assess the situation, and get you the help you need.
And right now, get 25% off at Best Buy, Rite Aid, or Sears.
Most people don't know that pharmacy prices vary wildly and that insurance isn't always your best bet. GoodRx is an easy way for Americans to save up to 80% on their prescriptions. You type in the name of your prescription, you find a coupon, and save. GoodRx works at virtually every pharmacy in America. This year, we'll save Americans over $1 billion on their prescriptions. There's no membership required with GoodRx. It's totally free, and we don't need any personal information. Go to GoodRx.com to see if you can save on your prescriptions.
France's election commission now working to try to keep that alleged computer hack of frontrunner Emmanuel Macron's campaign and his emails from influencing the outcome of the presidential election tomorrow. This coming just one day before that critical final round of the French presidential election race. Experts predict the leaks could make for a much tighter finish in the election, with some major international implications despite a media blackout of that contest in France. Greg Palcott is in Paris with the latest from the Fox News French election headquarters.
Eric, it sounds like something out of last year's U.S. presidential election. French presidential leader Emmanuel Macron hit by a cyber data dump. Thousands of emails and documents were seized from his campaign, posted online. Most of the material, it is reported, fairly routine, but according to authorities, mixed in fake news. Clearly, the election was attempted to be influenced. So far, no sign of an impact on frontrunner Macron. He is a centrist, independent reformer. He's pro-EU, pro-NATO, and right now he has over a 20% lead in the polls over far-right populist candidate Marine Le Pen. She is anti-EU, anti-immigrant, and she says she is for France. Le Pen's campaign manager tweeted positively today about the leak. Le Pen's positive tone regarding Moscow has some thinking of a Russian connection reminiscent of last year's tampering with the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, we spoke with some folks on the street here in Paris today. They hadn't heard too much about the hack. Authorities trying to keep a lid on it here in liberal Paris. We heard a lot of support for Macron. In the French heartland, though, where the economy is slammed, Le Pen's nationalist message is playing well. We also did hear, though, from people here who don't like either candidate, and that indeed could play a role. Now, remember that no major party candidate is in this runoff. They got knocked off in the first round of voting. Major U.S. figures are weighing in, though. This vote is so important. Former President Obama taping a message in support of Macron. In the past, President Trump has spoken favorably about Marine Le Pen. Yesterday, though, the White House said that they would work with whoever wins tomorrow's elections. Eric.
All right, Greg, thanks so much. And we will be covering the Le Pen-Macron race tomorrow afternoon right here on the Fox News channel. Laura?
Well, those French presidential candidates, Emmanuel Macron's campaign says it's been hacked and is accusing Russia of being the culprit. Right now, Macron has roughly 20-point lead in the polls over his opponent, as we've discussed here, Marine Le Pen, but it could the leaks affect the election's outcome? So we want to talk about it. We want to bring in Mike Baker, former CIA Covert Operations Officer and President of Diligence LLC, a global intelligence and security firm. I'm always so glad to see you on this program. It's like you're the help desk when we have hacking cases.
When we have problems, we have trouble, call Mike.
That's right. All right, Mike. So tell us, what do we know about what happened here? You know, was this a person? Was it a group that we know of? Who could have done this? Who's really behind it?
Well, there's not a definitive answer. There's a lot of speculation. And some of it is fairly justified, saying that it's likely emanating from Russia, possibly from the same group which has the somewhat absurd name of Fancy Bears, that was responsible for the DNC hack here in the U.S. So there's been some forensic work done already. It's going to take, probably a couple of weeks, frankly, to come to some more educated guess on this. But right now, it's probably fair to say that the Russians are meddling once again. I mean, it's certainly in their wheelhouse. It's the methodologies, at least at this stage of the forensics, look similar. So that's probably a fair statement.
All right, it all sounds too familiar, right, with the rings of what we saw here in the U.S. And you've been talking about cybersecurity for years. We've had you on the program many times. There are many layers of protection in place, but clearly, it's not enough. So what do other nations need to be doing right now to prevent this sort of meddling? What more can be done?
Well, I think we need to understand where it comes from. I think we need to take action in that regard. Look, the Russians are feeling emboldened and have been feeling emboldened for some time now, in part because they haven't had any pushback on really anything of note over the past several years. If you march into Crimea and claim Crimea now suddenly as your own, and the world doesn't push back in any meaningful way, maybe a few sanctions here and there, or you go into Ukraine and engage in the sort of activity they've engaged in, or in Syria and propping up Assad the way that they've been doing, and no pushback, well, naturally they're going to feel emboldened. This effort, this tampering in elections, is nothing new for the Russians. They've been doing this since the early 1940s when they were trying to influence U.S. public opinion and keep us out of World War II back when they were still aligned with the Nazis. So this has been something they're very good at, and they're taking advantage of the new technologies that exist out there to try to spread the message. And that message, for the most part, for the Russians, is to discredit democracies, is to try to undermine people's faith in the system.
Right. And, voters know that this happens, right? So what does it mean for national elections going forward around the world now that the public really knows that this can be happening?
Well, part of it is what you just said, which is the public awareness. It's a bit of an education campaign to get people to understand that this happens. It doesn't mean that they're reaching in and tampering with your individual vote. That's not happening, and people shouldn't be under the impression that it is. What they look to do is influence, and they look to sow instability, and they look to create propaganda in a sense and disseminate that through whether it's social media or traditional media, however they choose to do it. So part of this is an awareness on the public's part that this happens and the extent to which it happens and what it means for their own vote. Frankly, at the end of the day, when you say, well, what can people do? What people need to do is arm themselves with an array of information. So don't settle into a bubble. Don't just read or listen to things that agree with your opinion. Get out there and get a wide range of information from everything that's available and be aware of what's happening in the world. That's part of it. The next part of it is much more complicated and costs a lot more, and that's beefing up our systems, our infrastructure, to try to prevent these sort of cyber shenanigans from happening.
Cyber shenanigans, I like that. In terms of how damaging it can be when this involves both the release of real and fake news, we hear a lot about fake news, but not everything released in this case came from Macron's campaign, apparently. Apparently there were some fake things put out there to kind of throw people off. So your point is well taken, that people really need to, read the facts, know what they're dealing with, and, realize that this could potentially happen again and again.
It's a fairly sophisticated effort, and it's going to take quite a while to understand with this Macron hack. It's going to take a while for them to sift through, because there's a lot of legitimate material in there, emails and other information, and then again they're sowing this propaganda. They're sowing these false stories in there, and some of it's very sophisticated, some of it's less so and easier to point out. But it's going to take some work to understand the extent to which this happened, as well as, again, from the very beginning of our conversation, to figure out exactly who was responsible.
All right, Mike Baker, thanks so much for being here, being our help desk when it comes to these issues. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time. All right, Eric.
Well, meanwhile, Laura, in our hemisphere, the political unrest in Venezuela, well, it's getting worse. Thousands of anti-government protesters took to the streets, protesting the socialist president's attempts to impose a new constitution. The Trump administration cautioning Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro about his moves today, and that comes from the United States ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley. In a statement, Ambassador Haley warns, quote, "We are deeply concerned about the Maduro government's violent crackdown on protesters in Venezuela. President Maduro's disregard for the fundamental rights of his own people has heightened the political and economic crisis in the country. We are particularly concerned that the government is failing to provide basic food and medical needs to the Venezuelan people." Ambassador Haley also called on the government to release 25-year-old American citizen and Mormon from Utah, Joshua Holt. You see his mother there holding a picture of him. He's been held by Venezuelan authorities for almost a year, since last June. Holt was arrested with his Venezuelan wife, accused of plotting against the president there, Maduro, a charge his family says is ridiculous. The family says Holt has been suffering from health issues since he's been held without trial in a prison that's reportedly run by the country's intelligence ministry.
Well, President Trump meets with Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas, expressing optimism about peace between Israel and their Palestinian neighbors. But many obstacles remain. A senior Israeli cabinet member joins us live to weigh in. Next.
I wanted to know who I am and where I came from. I did my Ancestry DNA and I couldn't wait to get my pie chart. The most shocking result was that I'm 26% Native American. I had no idea. Just to know this is what I'm made of, this is where my ancestors came from, and I absolutely want to know more about my Native American heritage. It's opened up a whole new world for me.
Discover the story only your DNA can tell. Order your kit now at AncestryDNA.com. Americans, 83% try to eat healthy, yet up to 90% fall short in getting key nutrients from food alone. Let's do more. Add 1 A Day 50 Plus, a complete multivitamin with 100% daily value of more than 15 key nutrients. 1 A Day 50 Plus.
New bike?
Yeah,
because I got...
Allstate. If you total your new bike, they replace it with a brand new one.
So, kind of like your second husband.
Kinda. It's good to be in good hands.
They say passion is contagious, and it's got a way of making moments memorable. Start tapping into your passion and get more Honda in your garage. tough, reliable, and trusted Honda power equipment is designed to take the work out of yard work and help you get the job done. So make your dreams a reality today. Just visit an authorized Honda power equipment dealer. Honda Power Equipment. Very smart.
I got a mortgage offer from the bank today.
What? You never just get one offer. Go to LendingTree.com and shop multiple loan offers for free.
Free?
Yeah, could save thousands. You should probably buy me dinner. Papa's eating steak tonight.
No.
At LendingTree, shop and compare loan offers from top lenders, and in just 5 minutes, you can save thousands. LendingTree. When banks compete, you win.
I love date night.
Yeah. Well.
Somebody's ruining it.
Yeah. Well, you could leave if you wanted to.
I think they have one of those video doorbell things.
What?
It's called a Ring.
What?
Ring video doorbell means I can see you and this guy.
What's up there, Slick? Smile for the floodlight.
Knuckleheads. The Ring video doorbell and floodlight cam. See, speak, or sound an alarm right from your phone. Learn more at ring.com.
Do you tell yourself, today's the day, I'm gonna lose the weight, but nothing changes? Well, today's the day. Just call Nutrisystem.
I'm Brian, and I've lost 75 pounds on Nutrisystem.
I'm Chris, and I lost 120 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guarantee.
I got to eat my favorite food. I got to eat, and I got to eat a lot.
Nutrisystem for Men is the real deal with real food that gets real results. Order your 28-day program right now and get all new NutriCrush bars to crush cravings free, and 1 week of Turbo Shakes to bust that gut free.
Nutrisystem just gave me my life back.
These guys are just like you. They made the call and they got the results. Lose weight, boost energy, improve your health with Nutrisystem for Men. Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll throw in FedEx shipping free. Lose 15 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Make the call now.
Go online or call 877-380-SIZE right now and get Nutrisystem for Men with bars and shakes free.
Topical pain relievers can seem very similar until you take a closer look at this one. Salonpas Pain Relief Patch. Salonpas isn't just the first. It's the only FDA-approved OTC topical NSAID. Our clinical trials proved it works up to 12 hours against mild to tough or moderate pain, making Salonpas the strongest labeled pain reliever available without a prescription. That's powerful relief you can feel. Salonpas for tough pain.
We'll be discussing details of what has proven to be a very difficult situation between Israel and the Palestinians, and let's see if we can find the solution. It's something that I think is frankly maybe not as difficult as people have thought over the years, but we need two willing parties.
That, of course, was President Trump expressing optimism about the prospects for Middle East peace ahead of his first foreign trip there later this month. But you know, one stumbling block that remains is the Palestinian Authority